You are watching the Vodka stream.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
What's happening, everybody? Hey, how's everybody doing? It's Friday. How's it going out there, guys? Talk to me. We made it. We made it through another week. I'll get everybody filing in here. I see you, Shadow Ghost. How's it going, bud? What's going on, Mr. Eric? How you doing? Let's do this. Hey, we got Steven. What's up, buddy? How you doing? Let's get nuts. You want to go nuts? Let's get nuts. Whoa. And then speaking of Batman, he just fell down it. Come on. That's one thing about this figure right here. He's got the Keaton lean, but sometimes that big head of his just does not want to stay still. Anyways, there we go. Let's see if that holds up for the remainder of the stream. What's going on, guys? We got Jason. What's up? All right. We got Abel. What's up? How you doing? Not over. Yes, it's not over. The motion comics. Yes, it is. Good drawings of what's going on with those storyboards. What's going on, Miss Stewart? How you doing? It's been a while since I think I've seen your name. What's going on, Jose? How you doing? Giants are winning, of course. But I don't know what's going on right now. But they were bases loaded, though. There was a little bit of a jam happening right now. So what's going on, Javier? What we having? I got vodka, but I got a different kind of vodka than I'm used to. What's going on, Ryan? How you doing? Yeah. I'll react to the Jackass trailer. Yeah, why not? I grew up with Jackass, so I think it came out when I was in high school or junior high. I don't remember when it came out. Maybe there's a stranger who comes to see. Nice one. All right. This trailer makes me want to see the. No, we've gotten clips of that. Mr. Dawson doing all that. Yeah. I wonder if it's ever going to release that. What's going on, Ezra? Watch that be the Ezra. Mr. Alex Lobo, what's up? Take it off. Really, you're going to just go that route already, huh? And so the Dodgers are winning 10-4. Whatever. It's fine. I don't care. The Giants still have the best record in baseball. All of baseball, by the way. Hey, buddy. How's it going? Mr. Jonathan, how you doing? So, I'm more of a bourbon kind of guy. Yep, that's what I had last week. I had some bullet bourbon going on last week. Ahoy, Mr. Jason. Yeah, we got Wonder Meg here, too. She's agreeing with you, Alex. Yeah, I guess Alex has already been drinking or something like that. No, but today, this is what I have today. I have 1941 vodka. That's right. Brewed in the Midwest. I don't know. I saw it and I went, you know what? I like the label. It's basic, 6 times distilled for smooth taste. That's right. Crafted in America. That's right. Good old America right here. Midwest. So let's see what this is like. That's right. I'm trying to expand my vodkas here. You know, remember for a while there, you guys would always give me shit about Smirnoff. No more. Now I'm trying to expand the vodka-ness. Let's see what happens. Let's see what's going on with this guy right here. See if it tastes like the Midwest. 1941 vodka. All right. Well, cheers, everybody. Cheers. Then we got Mom here. Hi, Mom. How's it going, Mom? Mama Film Junkie's here. So cheers, guys. Happy Friday. Not too bad. I dig it. Smooth. Kind of refreshing, you know, it being right out of the freezer. Not too shabby at all. So I'm liking it. I'm digging it. So yeah, looking at it, tasting pretty good. Yeah, no bourbon. No bourbon this week. Yeah, sometimes. You should have got 1940. Why? Is that a different one? I don't know. This is pretty damn good. Smirnoff Russian vodka with French name, distilled in America. You gotta love it, right? Gotta love it. Yeah, it's what happens. It's whatever. It's all about the quality of the product, right? Not exactly where it all stems from and stuff. So yeah. So yeah, hopefully you guys are having a good Saturday. Yeah, today was fairly easy going day. Posted of course that video with the new Ben Affleck image, which I'm sure we'll definitely be talking about tonight. How awesome he looks in that image, and we'll be talking about Batsuits and whatnot. So just make sure you hit that like, thumbs up, hit that notification bell. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not subscribed. Why is Don Cheadle trending again? Oh, because of Space Jam, right? Is that what it is? Yeah, because of Space Jam. All right. That's why. I forgot that I wanted to watch Space Jam today, but right after I got done with work, I ran out and ran some errands and stuff. I wanted to watch Space Jam, and I want to watch Gunpowder Milkshake. So I got some movies I got to watch tomorrow. Okay, let me rephrase that. I don't want to watch Space Jam. Not really. It's not really for me, I don't think, but I was going to anyways just to see, because everybody's talking about it. Something tells me that those streaming numbers for Space Jam is they're going to come out pretty quickly. I think they're going to come out pretty quickly. They're going to show those numbers because I just have a feeling that the box office might not quite, might quite be there. I don't know. They're thinking that they're predicting probably about 20 million, I think, domestically, and that Black Widow is still going to be the champion, the box office champ. So. Yeah, you see, that's right. I want to watch Gunpowder Milkshake. It looks cool. I like the actresses in there. What's going on, Lane? How you doing, bud? He was okay? Yeah. I mean, if you got kids, Space Jam is probably, that's for, kids and parents with kids and stuff like that. So, that's what it's for. I'm not really the target audience. Obviously, I like the original one. Because, of course, when that came out in the 90s, who wasn't a Michael Jordan fan? Kind of was like a no-brainer right there when it came to watching that movie. And that's why that movie was a big, huge hit. And then, of course, it had Bill Murray. So, yeah. LeBron's cool. But I've never been like hey, oh, my God, it's LeBron. Just never, I don't know. It's not the same, as we know. But I'll watch it. I'll give it a shot. I'll put it on tomorrow morning, when I'm hungover from tonight. That's usually how it is. Pirate ship, baby. Thank you, sir. Mr. Jason, cheers to you. As always, thank you for the super chat. I'm actually really liking this vodka. I think I like this vodka a little bit better than that. What was that one? Shit. I got that one, Lake Tahoe. That Lake Tahoe that was made with like Lake Tahoe water. Because that's our selling point, just claim that, hey, we all these people, all these drunk idiots, that are, pissing in the lake and stuff like that. That's right. We're using that water. It's okay. We filter it. No, it gives it that kick. But no, this is actually, I'm actually really digging this. Not too pricey either. It was like $12. This bottle was like $12. I kind of like it. It's a solid bottle too. That's what I like about it. That's what I liked about it. Just seemed like, obviously it's 1941, so it just kind of made sense. But yeah, solid bottle. You got some wine going on there, Lane? Good. Yeah. So what's going on, Mr. Benjamin Hernandez? How you doing? It's Bill fucking Murray, right? Yeah, exclusive, guys. He just got cast in the new Wes Anderson movie. Wes Anderson just came out with a movie it's coming out with a movie that has Bill Murray in it. And apparently Wes Anderson's next movie has Bill Murray in it. So, shocker, guys. Very much a shocker. I know. It's crazy. All right. Let's go ahead and bring my guest in. I've been wanting to talk to this guy for a bit. You've seen all over social media. If you're a Batman fan, you should definitely be following this guy at ReevzFX, all around social media and everything. Mr. Sean Reeves, how you doing, sir?
Cheers, sir.
Cheers.
I am still at work.
You're still at work. You're still in your cave. Look at that. Look at all that behind you, man. That is awesome stuff.
Yeah. So it's a whole lot of mess back there.
That's a lot of mess.
Like on this side. Yeah.
Oh man, it's awesome stuff. So how you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good.
Good.
I'm not a vodka dude, So
Okay.
I'm just having a beer.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like, I mean, I tell everybody, I don't discriminate on any kind of, even if people are just drinking water, fine with it,
Right.
you know. So as long as, you know, we're just relaxing, having a conversation, stuff like that. So I appreciate you joining. And like I said, guys, I mean, especially, I mean, if you look at Sean's Instagram, I mean, that's pretty much where I think everybody's finding you. I think that's where I first found you too, posting all your various Batman stuff, and I love the fact that you've been showing off a lot of the Batman '89 suit, which I could see behind you right there. But yeah, that's right there. Because I don't know, I always talk about how I love that. I love the 3 spiked emblem from the Batman '89. You there?
Oh yeah, the feet.
I think you froze up a little bit. Is that what they consider it? Is it feet?
Am I freezing up?
Yeah, you froze up a little bit.
Yeah.
I think we're good now. Yeah. Is that what they're considering it to be feet?
Yeah.
Really? I never even knew that.
John
Uh-huh.
John Peters and Cooper Peters, they looked at the emblem because Anton first he painted the poster.
Yeah.
So when they looked at it, they're like, "This looks like a mouth." And they're like, no, that's the bat signal. That's the bat emblem. So I think it was a little bit of a design choice to add the little extra feet at the bottom.
Uh-huh.
Plus, Bob Woodward has said it made the emblem a little more regal. And also the armor for the movie, they used they tried to use Keaton's anatomy or a stylized version of it, but they ended up making it look more like Roman soldier armor.
Yeah.
So just so that it was a little bit obvious to the audience that it's like, yes, he's wearing armor. It's not. It's not his body. Like,
I know.
You know,
I always find it funny with the earlier movies how, you know, I mean, nowadays you get a superhero role, no matter what it is, your ass is like, okay, you get like a list of, this is the only food you can eat, which is like, you know, full on whole chickens and, you know, the ass ends of fucking buffalo and all this stuff. And then you're just constantly working out. But back then it's like, you know, Keaton was not a big guy. I mean, you know, we lost Reeves. Like he had a little mess up with his connection there. So probably because he's in his bat cave. That could be it. So, no, you see that room in the background? That's a bat. I know that. I mean, imagine that's his workspace right there. You know, just like, you know, a man of his craft. So we'll see if we can get him back here. But yeah, I mean, like I said, guys, there's some good things, some good stuff when it comes to what's on his Instagram right here. I mean, like I said, he's been obviously when it comes to a lot of talk about Keaton coming back, he was posting a lot showing, you know, just his Keaton bat suit that he had right there, you know, specifically talking about how it's, you know, what he was talking about, like knight armor right there. I mean, it's very obvious what they were going for. So, but yeah, it's really good stuff. But yeah, I did not even think about that. So now we know the origin of. I thought it was a tail that had 3 spikes on it. We're all thinking that it was a tail, but this is actually feet. There you go. I did not know that. That is actually feet right there. Man, I did not even think about that. Feet. So that even makes me like that. That even makes me love the '89 logo even more. It really does, because the fact that that's feet, that just that makes it even more. I don't know. That makes it even more unique, I think. So it's good stuff. But yeah, I wonder. You know, I want to ask him, like, how heavy is this stuff right here? I definitely want to ask him how heavy all this stuff is. All right, you're back.
All right, I'm back. I had to go up into the office.
Yeah, seemed like it down in the cave. Signal
I don't know what's going on in there.
Yeah. Well, a lot of cool shit, that's for sure. Now it's just kind of going over some more of you know, I'm just kind of blown away that emblem is actually not the tail 3 spikes. That's feet. You're blowing my mind tonight. That's cool.
The '89 suit that I've been posting, I owned one, and I had it. And I was able to take castings off it, and also have it digitally scanned, just because anybody who is not Keaton's height and who was like, hey, maybe someday I'd like to be Keaton Batman.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity. So having the ability to size it and take advantage of technology, because look, those suits are foam latex and they will break down. I was I think it was like 2019. Warner Brothers contacted Ironhead Studios, and they were like, hey, can you fix our suits?
No, really?
Yeah. And so they're like, okay, what do you have? So they went into their archives, and I mean, like, they did not have a lot that survived. There's a lot of really badly stored suits. And plus, suits are like 30 years old, so they're breaking down.
Yeah.
However, I had a lot of the assets that, just because I'm a collector. Yeah. And so they hit me up and they were like, hey, man, what do you have? And I'm like, I have everything. Nice. What do you need? Yeah. So I went in there. I even reference, like photo reference, like they were like, do you have like high res reference? And I'm like, doesn't Warner Brothers have this shit? Don't they have this? Like isn't there someone in office that could just give you a hard drive? They don't. Like, yeah. And I'm like, no, there isn't. Wow. I'm like, I got you covered. Because I mean, in addition to being like, a gigantic Batman fan, I'm also a gigantic Batman collector. So it's like, if it's come out in the past like 30 something years, I probably have 3 of them.
Damn.
Yeah. But when it comes to the Keaton suit, pre-internet, there was nothing. Like, you know what I used to do? I used to go to the movie credits and like write down the people that were like actually that worked on the movie. And then like, remember MySpace?
Oh yeah, I remember MySpace.
And then when everyone started getting email, I was just like, I'm gonna try. And you knock on enough doors and someone will answer. And then I started meeting people that actually worked on it. And I'm like, hey, man, you got anything? You got anything left over from the movie?
Yeah, something's just flying around. What's going on?
Yeah. And I got my hands on a full suit. That's awesome. And it was like a unicorn, because when I would people would come over and I'd show it to them, like, wait, is this the real suit? This is the real suit? And I'm like, yeah, this is a real suit. And I can tell you right now, if anybody's ever seen the real Keaton suit, like a real one, it smells like tires.
I'm sure it does.
Yep, that foam latex smells like a tire store.
God, I always wonder. I remember when Batman Returns came out. I remember they had a special called the Penguin. Yes, and the Penguin. And I remember one of the things they talked about is how Keaton can't hear shit in that cowl. I mean, is that? Yeah, you just can't hear. Huh?
And your vision is like, he could see straight. He can't see to the side. And Michael Keaton did a convention in Texas, like again back in 2019. Nobody did shit last year, right. But in 2019 he actually did a con, and a friend of mine was there, and he actually got him to sign something for me, like to me. Like he didn't do that. He was like, just I'm not here for that shit. I'm just signing this, and you can go. But he was talking about how he ripped the cowl like the first like week he was in the suit. He's like trying to like figure out how to move in it. But by the time he got to Returns, I think even in that special, he was like, I just felt like I was doing an impression of myself.
Yeah, I think he did say something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, it got to the point. I mean, the infamous Batman turn that everybody's like, and it took what?
Necessity.
Yeah, I know. And it took like till Dark Knight till like finally went, hey, we can actually make this thing where maybe he can turn his head. But I mean, what was kind of cool though about Batman '89, there is that shot when the Batmobile pulls up after blowing up Access Chemicals, and then the Joker copters in the air, and he does Michael Keaton's Batman turn was legit, and that turn that he does when you see the light shine on him, the cape just starts blowing. I thought that was, he
should have been a poster.
Yeah, that should have been definitely. Oh, there's a lot of shots in there that should have been a poster. But what were you gonna say?
Dark Knight, they cheated.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they like the cowl was separate from the neck.
Yeah.
It wasn't until BVS where they nailed it. Which, ironically, the guy who did the Batman Returns cowl and the Catwoman cowl and Clooney's and Kilmer's suits, Jose Fernandez, he actually made that cowl turn.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, like the fight scene, like from what I gather, and man, you gotta get that guy on here. Holy shit!
Oh yeah, definitely love to.
Like he's forgotten more about those suits than I'll ever remember. Like he's like the dude.
Yeah,
and he's like the guy. Like I mean, when you talk about like the top tier superhero suit builders, like that's the guy.
That's the guy.
Like, yeah, he like not only does he do those suits, like he invents the tech to do them. You know, I mean, he figures it out.
Yeah.
Because you know, not to get technical, but like in order to make the head turn, there's a lot of math and engineering. It's I got another friend of mine, my friend Rob. He actually did the mold for it, and you know, we talk about it all the time. And at the time they were making BVS, he, you know, look, you sign non-disclosure, so you can't really talk about anything. And he's like, I want to tell you everything, but I can't. Yeah. It's my job on the line. I can't do it. He goes, the second it comes out, we'll have drinks and then we can like, you know, talk about it. You know, we did. But I often have this conversation with a lot of bat nerds. You know, they're like, "Oh, what's your favorite bat suit?" And it's like,
I know. I was like,
I can't pick between. Like, here's the thing. Like, I feel like the '89 suit is like up until I saw BVS was my absolute favorite. No, like that was my favorite.
I shit you not. I was like, should I ask him what his favorite bat suit is? And then I literally thought, I bet he gets that question all the time. So I'm not even gonna do that. That's through that when like any questions that I had, I was like, now that's like such a general thing. And he probably gets asked that all the time. So I'm so glad that you said that.
Yeah.
Because I totally was like, I'm not gonna ask that.
89 and BVS.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard. Because here's the thing. This is what I remember thinking like when 89 came out, because I'm old enough to remember when that shit came out in the theater.
Yeah.
And I'm also old enough to remember when it was hyped for a year. Like I went to Comic-Con in the 80s. So in Comic-Con 88, there was like a free merch table and they were giving away free shit on the table. That's awesome. One of the things they were giving away was like the little yellow square button that says Batman the movie, summer 89. And I remember like being like, what the fuck is this? Like there's a Batman movie? Because all we had was the cartoon, the comics, and the 60s.
Oh, man. The good old days when you didn't get everything just like that. You didn't get all the development and stuff. Yeah.
But I'll tell you this, because there was rumors, like even like whenever there would be like an Entertainment Tonight or whatever. That's an old-fashioned sentence. One of those shows. Yeah. I remember they were like, oh, it's going to follow the Dark Knight storyline. No, it didn't. It didn't fight. Not at all. But if I would have seen Ben Affleck Batman, if that was our first introduction to him in 89, my fucking head would have exploded.
No shit, man.
Exploded. Because, they took liberties with Keaton, you know, because Tim Burton, you know, famously said, he goes, I don't know how to put someone in a Batman costume and not get, like, unintentional laughs from the audience. You know what I mean? Yeah. So they went, well, we're not doing gray and blue. We're going to just put him in black. We'll just keep the yellow. And then I remember when the first images they showed of him in the suit, I just remember being like, I love it. This is perfect. This is awesome. I don't care. This is great. I was just so happy to get a Batman that wasn't funny.
Yeah. But dark and I remember seeing those you can even see him now. I mean, like, you know, he's just, and I remember, I think even, you know, even talking about that costume, I think Kevin Smith one time said that like such a badass costume, but if you see it during the daylight, it doesn't look good. It's
one of those. Ben Affleck did a birthday party in the Batsuit. And I remember hearing about that before he talked about it. I think it was Jimmy Kimmel. He said something about it on Jimmy Kimmel.
I think so. Because I think it was mentioned there. Yeah.
The guys that put together the Batsuit, I think they had to send one of them there so they could dress him. Because I mean, you need a helper to get into that shit. You can't just put it on by yourself. And they're going to need someone there to maintenance it. And even Ben was like, he goes, yeah, you know, when you're dramatically lit and you're like in the context of like, you know, a scene in the suit, it's like, it's pretty badass. But 10 a.m. in California,
natural light,
party, everybody's like,
Wow.
Yeah.
Batman. Look at okay.
Kind of interesting. I could see like the little creases in the
Yeah.
sleeves and shit like that. You see where it's all put together. I see zippers. What the hell?
Yep. There's crotch zippers in the suit.
Oh, there's
Little
what?
ones. Yeah, so that he can piss.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, I know. Like, I mean, I hate this too because every time there's like a new Batman, they always have to ask Christian Bale, and he always, I mean, it's always the same answers. Like, make sure you could piss in the suit. That was always like the biggest thing.
Yeah, you know? Clearly that was a real problem for him.
Of course.
Like with every movie, he's like, oh, I gotta pee.
I know, right? I bet he said it in the voice too. Yeah, he probably did. I don't think he broke character when he had to pee.
Yeah.
So
I don't think so.
Yeah, I wanted to get your origin story. How'd you get involved with like, you know, costume design and sculpting and just, you know, all this cool shit that you have?
Okay, like in high school, I wanted to be like a comic book artist. That's what I want, and no one was gonna stop me from doing. Like I would go in and talk to the counselor. You know, like when you go in there and they're like, "What would you like to do out of high school? You can go to
college.
college.
Do you see yourself in?"
Yeah, I'm gonna work for DC and I'm gonna draw Batman comics. That's exactly what I would say every year. And they're like, "All right, next." You know, they just like, he knows what he wants to do. And then, but I never knew how to break into them. And then I went to Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, and you know, that's where there was a comic book store in my neighborhood, and there was like the older kids, and they were like, "Yeah, I'm going to bring my panels in and they'll get reviewed." And I go, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "You know, your panel to panel continuity. It's like you bring your pages, you get reviewed, and they like them, they give you a job." Nice. And I go, "Oh, that's what you do. You don't just draw a picture of Batman and then you get hired." Nope. Yeah. You know, they're like, "Oh, we want to see you draw a building and a car or a dog or you know,
a lot more to it." Yeah.
So that dream was squashed because I'm standing in line watching people who are amazing get rejected, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm not gonna do this." So then I moved back east. My dad's originally from Boston, so moved from California to Boston. Early 90s, and then I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to be in a band." That's what I'm going to do.
It's good second option. Yeah.
Yeah, fucked around doing that for a while, and then it was just sort of like one of those things where I would, when again, this is going to fucking sound really like dated, but when the transfer from VHS to DVD started happening, one of the things that I think people forget about DVDs, one of the things that got people to buy them was DVDs would come with a lot of extras.
Yes.
You see like making of shit. And one of the things that I always loved, even in high school, I was just like, I either wanted to be a comic book artist or a special effects guy. And I started, you know, like I would buy DVDs and watch the special effects part or like
those are great.
I've had a subscription to Fangoria forever.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I want to get into doing that. So I did, and then it was just a no-brainer that I'm like, well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make Batman suits. But the only thing that the only point of reference for Batman suits was like the movies.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, well, I'm not really going to. I don't want to make a replica of it unless I have the real thing that I could just use to produce it. It's like, I'm not going to do that. So I'll just make my own. And I did. I was just like, so I applied like someone who would have like their own artistic style in a comic. I'm like, I'm going to do that with Batman costumes. There's no comic book looking Batman. At the time, there wasn't. This is like a mid 90s, early 90s.
Yeah. It was always just black rubber.
It was only the movie suits.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think it was 2013. Batman Dead End.
Yes, I was about to say. I love that. I love that short film.
Yeah,
I mean, and the Batsuit was so basic and was mainly just like it was tight.
It was just Under Armour.
Yeah,
Under Armour. They Henry Alvarez sculpted the cowl.
Such a good cowl.
I have a copy of it in the shop.
Yeah. No, I mean,
it's also not very. It's also not very. It's not very large.
Yeah.
It's very fit specific. Like usually movies, like when they do when they'll do like with BVS, like they'll cast all the stunt guys sort of like, you know, the same size as Ben.
Yeah.
Which they're really not. They're as tall, but they don't have that big pumpkin head.
Oh, I know. You could always tell when it's Citron and then when it's when it's Ben.
Yeah. Even though I'll say there's like Richard graciously I had a Zoom call with him in December.
Nice.
And he has a picture pictures hanging up on his wall, like behind him during the Zoom call. I go, well, what the fuck is that? What is that? And he goes, oh, Clay Enos, the photographer, like he
took a bunch of pictures.
I pull him up and I framed him and put him on my wall. I go, can I get that picture? And there's a picture of him breaking some dude's arm in the Batsuit. It's so badass.
Oh man.
I really hope he posts it, because he was like, I'll send it to you, but you can't share it and all that stuff. So I'm like, all right, I will audition for your trust, sir. So, but it's so awesome. And
sure.
He fits the cowl really great. But I also have a lot of other sneaky pictures that
you can't talk about. Yeah, I know. And I'm sure we're
I will talk about a picture that I have on my phone that I show people in person, but I was told by Hugh Jackman personally not to share it.
Hugh Jackman.
I did a Wolverine cowl a few years ago.
I remember that. I saw that.
And I have a picture of him wearing it.
Oh, damn.
Yep. And I'm like, can I share this? And I got a phone call. And by the way, that like the day I got
black trucks pulled up.
Yeah. The day I got the picture, he was like, this is probably gonna make news, huh? Like, there's a picture of Hugh Jackman in a Wolverine cowl. Anyway. I was asked respectfully not to post it, but if anybody ever runs into me publicly, I'll show it to you. I got it on my phone. I always have it. I even have it saved in my favorites at the top so that it's easy to find.
It's just one of those that you gotta see this.
Yeah. So there is sort of like a little bit of a pride to that, because he's never been in the suit. Like he's never done a Wolverine suit, but he's literally wearing a maroon t-shirt. He's against a wall and he's just standing there in the cowl. It's not, I wanted him holding it, because I asked when I sent it to him, there was a mutual friend of mine that had access to Hugh. And I was like, hey man, would he want one of these? And he's like, I'll ask him. Sent him the email and he's like, dude, yeah, he wants one. And I'm like, he'll have it tomorrow. I overnighted it and shit.
Express.
Yeah. And I go, hey man, can I get a picture with him with it? And I think he was like, and he put it on. Like I wanted him to be like hold the cowl up, but he wore it.
Well, that's what we love about Hugh Jackman. I mean, I can totally see him just be like, oh, he wants a picture with it? Sure. And he just placed it on his head. And I love the fact that you weren't expecting that, because a lot of us
I opened my email. I was so excited. And I'm like, whoa, holy shit. Yeah. So
is he making like a face or anything like that?
No, he's super relaxed in it. Like,
okay. Oh man. Because I know,
are you going to LA Comic-Con?
Probably not. When is it actually?
It's in December.
It's in December.
Yeah.
I might
try. If you're at LA Comic-Con, find me and I'll show you the picture.
Okay. Because I know San Diego is happening over like the Thanksgiving
weekend, yeah.
Yeah, is that actually going to be there, or is it going to be at Comic-Con at home? I don't even know what's going on with all that stuff.
I think it's an actual event.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a friend that works for Comic-Con, and I'm waiting to hear clarification.
Okay, and then they're going to have one in LA.
Happen.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that, see if I can get like a press badge or something like that. Because I definitely want. And then I'm gonna track you down and be like, "Show me the first thing I
need to see it."
Yeah, show me the Wolverine. Yeah, that's so awesome, though. So basically, that's how you got it kind of got in the biz. It's just you wanted to do this. By the way, you said you were in a band. What do you play?
Guitar.
Yeah.
Well, everybody's a guitar player.
Yeah.
No one's ever a drummer or a bass player. But
guitar.
The two things that bands actually need.
Yeah, right. you kind of need that backbone there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I like your shirt too, by the way. Headbangers Ball. I was noticing that.
Dude, this is such an old shirt, man.
Yeah, dude. I remember that show. Because when you were down in your cave, I thought you were wearing kind of like, it almost looks like the shape of a bat. I thought you were wearing kind of like a bat thing. But then but then up close, I'm like, oh, he's got a Headbangers Ball shirt. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Old school metalhead.
Yeah, old school shit. Remember when MTV back in our days, kids?
Back when they showed videos?
Yes, they used to show these videos and had segments where you had a specific kind, and you had like metal videos and stuff.
Yeah.
crazy. It was insane and stuff like that. But nowadays,
TV, and it was like the Festival of Animation cartoons on there.
Yeah, man, and the good old days. Now it's all ridiculousness and catfish. That's what they're showing on there. That's all it is now. And
YouTube is the new MTV.
Yeah.
Well, I guess TikTok is now the new MTV.
I guess I know, right? It's funny how all that kind of shifts and everything like that. But what I was going to bring up too, I like what you posted when you posted the recent Batfleck image that Mr. Tatopoulos gave us the other day, which is just such an
5 years later.
I know. That's why I love your caption. New Batfleck image posted by Patrick Tatopoulos. Thank you, sir. But also, what the fuck? We got Sad Batman as our first at Ben in the suit instead of this. I know. You kind of wonder.
Get it. Yeah, I get it. Also, there's a picture that I can't post, but it's from that same shoot. It's a back shot of Ben in the cowl with his head turned. And it's so fucking awesome.
Oh, man.
And I wish Zach would post it. Dude, you got his number, man.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm like sending him a message now.
Yeah, just be like, Zach, dude, the one from the back. Or I'm sure there's many. He probably snapped off a whole roll of pictures. But it's like, why wouldn't you lead with that? Why?
I know. When you see this image right here, I mean, when I did a video, but I'm like, I mean, first off, I made the fact that he's also got that Keaton lean that he's doing, but I like that, but at the same time, I like your point of like, we got the first shot was epic. It was amazing. I still remember that day, and I remember freaking out. I was at work and showing everybody and stuff like that. But yeah, this image right here, it's just, I don't know, man. I mean, it's just it's so crisp. It's so beautiful. You got the freaking the Batmobile in the back.
You know what it looks like? It looks heroic.
It does look heroic. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's one of my biggest beefs with the Snyder Cut posters is everybody looks like they're on a mission except Ben. He's like even the Flash looks like he can kick your ass. And it's like, why is Ben relaxed?
I know.
Why don't we have head down, sort of aggressive,
like a fist up or something like that? Yeah.
I know they got pictures.
Oh yeah,
I know they do.
Yeah, when it comes to all those promo shots, I mean, obviously,
I don't know who's in charge, man. But
well, I mean, sadly, Warner Brothers, they when it comes to them deciding, I don't know.
Oh man, don't get me started on that shit.
Oh yeah, trust me, Dude, I'd like to get
the parallels between what happened to Tim Burton and what the fuck happened to Zach are eerie. It's just eerie. Someone actually posted this on Twitter, and I've been saying this since fucking 2016 when they when BVS started, when everyone was taking a big old shit on BVS, and I'm like, why don't you guys relax? Why don't you just, you know what I mean? It's just you're only mad because you're comparing it to what you think, with the current landscape of superhero movie was. Like somebody told me this at Monsterpalooza, who was a big sci-fi nerd. They're like, when Blade Runner came out, no one liked it. See, nobody fucking liked it. Everyone was like, this isn't Star Wars. Why isn't this Star Wars? It's got Harrison Ford. What's this fucking boring
all there? You got all the pieces.
What's this high concept shit? But then it found its legs years later. Repeat viewings, HBO,
multiple director's cuts,
And I think look, if you don't like it, that's cool. But dude, to just go, Zack Snyder sucks.
Yeah, I know.
Or the campaign against. I'm like, I don't understand how Warner Brothers fumbles a pass like that.
Yeah,
it's like Ben Affleck, in my opinion. By the way, in case this isn't obvious, everything I'm saying is just my opinion. I don't think that anything should be designed around my opinion.
Of course.
I will say that there's a lot of people with the opinion. You know what I mean? It's like people wanted Snyder Cut. I was like, when I saw the theatrical Justice League, I remember a friend of mine had saw it earlier, right? And he's like, you're gonna love the intro, man.
Oh god,
it's fucking Batman, man. And I saw it and I go, what the fuck is this? This ain't fucking Batman. I mean, it's a version of it, but it's a CW shit. What is this? And the burglar was from fucking Mindhunter.
No, I know that guy. Yeah.
And I'm like, this is taking me out of this. Like, you couldn't have got anybody look more like a burglar. Anyway,
Yeah.
But it's like I just remember going, okay, like I feel like everything got compromised on the Batman end. With
a lot of it did,
and the Steppenwolf end.
Oh yeah,
and the Ray fucking Fisher end. It's just like, you know what I mean? It's I don't know how anyone could go. Yeah, we're proud of this, but then again. Look, man, I'm just saying Warner Brothers is weird. Studios are weird. They're not movie fans. They're not fanboys.
No. They're looking at they're trying to chase the Marvel, formula, I guess you could say. They're trying to chase whatever the hell they were doing over there.
Dude, it's Hollywood, man. They do that shit. Like, do you remember when Indiana Jones was like Raiders of the Lost Ark was like the movie that you know what I mean? It was like a popular thing. Yep. And then remember when Romancing the Stone?
Oh yeah.
It's like trying to be like Indiana Jones, the poster. Look like it's like
they're like
trying
they're
just trying to copy what's already established.
I know.
And I feel like Zach wasn't doing that.
No,
and got crucified for it.
Well, yeah, that's what he even said. He's even said that in recent interviews. He's like, yeah, that's cool what they're doing over there. That's not what we should be, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do something different. I have my little story that I have my beats, and then, we can have the directors I'll set the foundation and then they could take over, which is, essentially was like, sounds like a good plan. It's something different. He's creating and when you watch his Justice League, you go, yeah, this is not what they were doing over there. They're not doing a 4 fucking hour thing that is fleshing out the characters like crazy and just kind of, you're getting like this crazy backstory from Cyborg that is like, you could tell like, okay, this is revolving around him, even though he's not in the first 2 parts.
Yeah.
It's like, he was really trying to go like, okay, this is how I'm going to do it. And they were like, no. And then they try to, condense it down. But you mentioned that it was like how it was like to Tim Burton. Are you talking about when Tim Burton was trying to do Batman Forever, I guess you could say, or Batman 3?
Well, if you follow the timeline, Tim Burton does Batman. And everybody goes, oh, yay. Then he does, he established it. He pulled off the impossible. He basically reinvented something that already people had in their minds that belonged to someone else, like Adam West. That was like the second you said Batman in 1988.
Adam West,
it was like they sing that song to you and fucking pals out.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen anymore because Tim Burton came along. Well, I should say Tim Burton and Anton Furst because I think Anton Furst doesn't get enough credit for '89. That whole vibe, that look, all that shit. That's it. Let's pick up the fucking Oscar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Returns is more of a Tim Burton movie.
Oh, I always say that. I always say like they were like when it came to the first Batman, it was like, all right, let's try to do something different here. And then when they achieved big time success, they're like, have at it, Burton. And then Burton said, okay. And then
that's what happened with Zach. Man of Steel comes out. They're like, oh, Christopher Reeve. No one can fucking be better than him. He establishes Henry. Everyone goes, oh, okay. And then everyone starts to nitpick the snapping Zod's neck and the disaster porn ending. Even though, and I'm glad Zach said this because when I saw Avengers, because it came out, before Man of Steel, it was like I looked at the ending and I'm like, man, there's a lot of fucking dead people in this movie. And Zach brought that because, well, how come in Avengers New York gets fucking decimated? You know what I mean? But because they have like 5 heroes in it, it's different. I don't know, fuck it. But it's like, but I also think that the same kind of thing happened. Warner Brothers comes in and goes, ooh, can we tone this down?
Yeah.
People aren't getting it.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, the landscape for superhero movies changed after Avengers. Because, don't forget, Dark Knight Rises came out same summer as Avengers.
It's crazy to think that. Yeah.
And it's like the Nolan shit, like that I don't think that would be successful today. I think people would shit on it.
Probably.
I think people would be like, it's like he's not really Batman. They would have a lot of gripes.
Yeah. Why is he so angry? Yeah.
Totally. And then, but I feel like after Avengers, when they saw that a superhero movie can make $1 billion, they're like, that is our new benchmark. That is what we need because they greenlit Man of Steel off of Nolan's, because they're like, hey, you're finishing Batman. You want to do Superman? And he's like, no,
I know this guy. I know
who would
this guy.
you get? And he's like, get Zack Snyder. He did 100. You know what I mean? It's like he
Watchmen,
source material. Get him. And I mean, well, shit, dude, you were at the BVS in Pasadena screening.
Yeah. You were there too, right?
I was there too. Yeah,
I know. Yeah.
And I remember talking to Zach, and dude, if you talk to him for two things. First thing, he's a super nice dude.
Oh,
okay?
fuck
And
yeah.
he's a dude that is like I don't know, man. I don't know how many directors you met, but it's like there's like this thing where they're just kind of like they're always like looking at their phone, or they're kind of like they're not really listening, but
they're not in the moment.
He had everyone's undivided attention.
Yeah,
like he was present, and so was Debbie. Like he was awesome.
They're both awesome. Yeah, I know. I've talked to Debbie too, and she's just a freaking. I mean, you could see why they work so well together. Because sometimes people might be like, "Oh man, how do you like balance that?" But at the same time, I'm like, I mean, just listen to them talk. They're such nice people. They love their fans. They're not just like some bullshit like, oh yeah, you know, this, that, and this, and fans, whatever. They're nice,
and they know the source material.
Exactly.
Zach knows, and Zach is sort of like, I mean, he's a little older than me, but it's like he talks about shit that I'm like, oh man, I remember when that was in the comic stores. You know what I mean? Like Watchmen, 300.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody does those movies unless they're a comic book fan. Like,
exactly.
Don't. I mean, Watchmen? Who the fuck would do that movie? You pitch
so
it to a studio and
time.
they're like, so it's Justice League? Because I remember when the trailer came out, and they had that Smashing Pumpkins song.
Yeah.
You remember everybody being like, is this Justice League? And I'm like, no, man, this is the Watchmen. You don't know that?
People had no idea what the hell it was.
And then, of course, again, it's one of those movies where people were like, I mean, I don't think it flopped, but I think people were like, what is this?
Yeah.
But you watch it now, and it's way more, way more timely. No.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was ahead of its time. It's kind of funny because I know he's talked about how when he approached Watchmen, he wanted to, he'd be like, "Well, I wanted to do, not what they were doing in the comic books. This was before this is before MCU. This is before Iron Man, Mm-hmm. And then it's kind of funny when you watch it now. Now you can kind of take that and be like, well, it's almost like a response to where comic book movies are now. If you watch Watchmen, I mean, it's like it goes this direction. This is what. And then you see like, shows like The Boys and Invincible and, other stuff.
It's opened up way more than it has and in an adult way.
Oh, exactly.
And also in an episode, I've been saying this forever before there was an HBO Max. I remember saying this like 3 years ago at Comic-Con to a friend of mine that worked at Netflix. Yeah. I'm like, man, Marvel is so smart for doing a show. All those the Daredevil show and everything, because you're taking characters that it's not that they suck, it's that you couldn't get asses in the seats like that, or it would be a risk. I should say it would be a risk. I mean, no one's gonna show up for Jessica Jones. What is that? Yeah, I don't give a shit who you cast. Yeah, but a show where you're like, all right, I watched the first episode, I'll see where this goes. It's like you kind of hook them. Yeah. And I feel like that is exactly what they should be doing with Superman.
Oh,
and they should do that with just have Ben come back one season, one season, do your movie, 8 parts, and then we'll fuck off. And then you know what? It's just like we'll just go, all right, dude, you gave us your movie.
Okay, we have closure now, Ben. Come on, we're good.
Yeah.
No, like when Daredevil came out, and I remember that first episode, my first reaction was, why is there not a Batman there's not a Batman show like this? There should be a fucking Batman.
I mean, it's like the Pattinson costume looks like the Daredevil costume.
Seriously, right? I mean,
when I saw
even like the brutality of like when you see him beat the shit out of that guy, it's like that's very much. That's I mean, you go back to those, to Daredevil, and I mean, it was so brutal, just so brutal with the fighting and everything like that. So I know, I totally agree. I'm like, and I'm kind of wondering how are they going to approach that? I mean, I know when it comes to Matt Reeves' Batman. By the way, what do you think of that suit? Are you going to do anything with that?
Shit. I think it looks like shit. I think that they literally in their effort to make it look not like Ben Affleck, they succeeded.
They definitely did.
In their effort to make it look cool, I think they fucking failed.
I actually do remember you tweeting that we were not a fan of that suit.
I am underwhelmed.
But the good thing is, though, apparently
I'm sure it's going to be a good movie, though.
Yeah,
there's no like. I feel like as long as it's being taken seriously,
yes,
then I think then you got me. But I also know, even though I don't like the suit, I mean, I didn't like the Batman Begins suit. I thought he looked fat. But Yeah, I'm one of those dudes that's just like, I kind of prefer the Dark Knight suit better. I just felt it looked more flattering on Bale. Look,
definitely
the BVS suit over the JL suit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm like that too.
Yeah. And so if history has taught us anything, Pattinson's getting another suit.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
he's going to upgrade.
Well, apparently, according to rumors and stuff like that, the suit gets destroyed, so he has to make like another suit.
I'm skeptical.
You're skeptical, huh?
I think that he has that suit through the whole movie. I'm skeptical.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. No.
If he does have another suit, great. Show us that one. Get me excited. Because I don't know, man. His cowl looks like a Doc Martin with ears on it.
Martin.
And his armor looks like, I mean, they clearly looked at the Telltale game.
Oh, yeah, they did.
But
they did.
Cargo pants? All right. And he doesn't want to work out? Okay. You go for Ben Affleck's Batman. Aesthetics. Yeah. I'm talking about aesthetics, not like acting, because I'm sure Robert Pattinson's going to act his ass off.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's going to be brutal, and I'm sure all that's going to happen. But it's a Batman movie. So wouldn't you just kind of really want to bring your A game with the design? You know, if this homemade shit, okay. Like, and don't even get me started on that fucking Batmobile. Throw a rock at that engine in the back and it's gonna fucking, you know what I mean? It's like
oh man,
criminals have guns.
Yeah,
you know, is the engine bulletproof? You know, the exposed engine in the back.
But you got to realize that it is season. It's like supposed to be year 2 though. It is supposed to be.
Yeah, but you know what? Here's my problem.
Okay.
When this was first announced, it was like, no, we're gonna get a Batman that's established. We're gonna get a Batman that's like, you know,
so
in his prime.
Yeah,
it's fucking year 2 shit. I don't want to see his fucking origin again. You know what I mean? Nobody does. We get it.
I know. It's like,
all right, show us badass fucking Detective Batman at his peak.
I think we're gonna get Detective, but we're definitely gonna get Detective Batman. It looks like.
I mean, I guess, but it's like, you know, it's not gonna take a genius to figure out who the fuck's under that Doc Martin boot cowl. You know what I mean? It's like, I just don't understand.
But what I appreciated though is the fact that when he took the cowl off, he still had black makeup over his eyes. So.
I mean, I guess. I mean, if you want to find a silver lining, you know, that's cool.
Well, I mean, to me, it was always like, because, you know, I do a character called Casual Batman, where I just basically wear a T-shirt and then a bat cowl, and you know, it's funny too, because, you know, talking about Batman costumes, and, you know, I can only imagine what those fucking I mean, I'm just wearing like a latex fucking. I got off.
All the horrible to wear, man.
Oh yeah,
horrible to wear.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I mean,
you will sweat after 5 minutes in the thing.
Oh, I'm sure.
Dude, I'll put it on for pictures, and it like literally slides.
Drenched. I mean, because my little latex mask. I mean, it's thin, and you know, if I put it on, you know, I do like my whatever the hell, a video or something like that. I might record for like a half an hour.
Yeah.
I take that thing off. I mean, I'm pouring sweat. The makeup is all down my cheeks and everything like that. It's crazy insane. Like,
now think of this. Now you're an A-list actor who is going to be in a movie where you're going to be completely covered. You're like I know Ben was like not necessarily thrilled with the cowl in Justice League. It was made out of a different material. Didn't move good.
Okay. That's what you know. It seemed like it wasn't. It was stiff. It was a little more stiff than it.
It was a different shop.
Yeah,
they shot it in England. Completely different crew.
It
was not now. Certain parts of the suit, the molds went over to England, like the body, but they changed certain parts of the muscles. Like for instance, like the fabric that's over it, they made new fabric, and
it doesn't look
because he didn't have to do any fights really.
Yeah.
So the fight scene was sort of like what they used to design the suit around. They're like, I want his head to turn, and I want the suit to be super mobile. So that's why Ben looks the way he does in BVS. That's why the suit really worked.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, man, Ironhead Studios, they do not fuck around when it comes to the badassery of what they produce in their shop. Now, in England, they basically just do everything in house. You know what I mean? They have mold makers. They have talented people over there, but they were given the tools to sort of create the suit and do an updated version, but the cowl didn't move.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
at all.
They were talking about how like the cowl does still move, or somebody in the interview. I'm not sure who it was, but it's like he's literally doing the Batman turn. It seems though in that cowl, like maybe there's a limited. It was limited.
He had limited movement, and like because the material that they used, it was polyurethane rubber was not full latex, and it also did not have the ability. The first one did for the head turn. I'm trying to be very careful what I say.
I know you are. And then I was going to ask you too, like what have you heard about other bat suits that might be coming along the?
Oh, you mean like the Keaton suit?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
He has a suit,
of course. It's going to be pretty. Is it going to be like? I mean, obviously, I'm wearing my shirt that I made where the armored suit. It's gonna obviously he's 70 years old. He's gonna have to have some assistance.
What do I say? I will say this. There may have been some artwork.
Okay.
To my eyes, it looked very much influenced by the Returns look. But again, the thing with artwork is I never know what stage the artwork I'm looking at is. Because look, man, there's stuff from BVS where I'm like, oh, this is from BVS? Oh, this was early stuff. Oh, okay. I'm glad it didn't.
I remember seeing some early concepts.
Yeah, and it didn't even look like
this. Didn't look like anything like what they got. Yeah.
So I know that they
like
also
mechanical
showing
shit.
There was like a Flash vignette, and it looked like there was like some Keaton. Like they took some screenshots and put them in.
Oh yeah, they took a lot. They cut out Keaton from Batman Returns and shit.
Yes.
And put him in that. Yeah.
It was a lot more stylized looking than a screenshot. It looked like someone took the time to kind of sort of like get designy with it. And to me, it looked like it was influenced by Returns. And that's what I'll say.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think we all kind of gathered that. I mean, like
I have no idea what the suit will look like. I haven't seen a physical suit. I mean, other than the picture that Andy Muschietti posted on his Facebook. We're going to see it in October.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to see it in October. Oh yeah, fandom.
Oh,
right?
Dude, they're going to show a trailer, and I'm waiting for this. I'm waiting for this to happen. Barry Allen, talks to Affleck, Bruce Wayne, goes in the future, sees, Keaton Batman, and he probably goes, "Who are you?" And I'm waiting for
I'm Batman. Yeah. Something like that.
Put it in my veins.
Oh man. But do we know that, one of the biggest questions when it comes to the Flash is Affleck. Yeah. Is there going to be an Affleck suit? You don't think so?
Put it this way, I don't know anything concrete because anything could happen.
Yeah, of course.
You're shooting it over there, and I'm like, I get everything, not even secondhand, third hand.
Yeah.
And these are from dudes that work on costumes. So I don't know any plot points. I don't know any of that shit. I just ask, I go, is there a Ben Affleck Batsuit? And I either get, and nobody ever answers. I get emoji answers.
Of course. Yeah.
So, I have conversations that way, like we're fucking spies. But I have not heard that Ben is going to have a suit.
Okay,
I have not heard that, but that doesn't mean it isn't possible. But fuck, man.
I mean, it would seem like it'd be such a waste if they didn't have him. Like at least
I hear it's a glorified cameo. That's right. And I know the Batmobile's there.
Yeah,
so,
the Batmobile's there. That's
Batcave kind of maybe sequence. Yeah. Of some sort.
I mean, obviously, we know that he's going to probably supply Barry with his new suit. I mean, that was always supposed to be like the thing, right?
I'm guessing that might be like a whole Tony Stark, Spider-Man kind of.
Yeah, I mean, Snyder's even talked about that too. It was like, well, the suit that you see in Justice League, that's Barry. He put that suit together himself, and then now that he's kind of he's got a mentor in Bruce Wayne. Hey, guess what? I mean, I know there's the parallels and stuff like that. I get that. Yeah. But to like, Tony Stark and Spider-Man, I hate that. At the same time, I'm like, it does make sense in this sense. It's fine. So I'm curious to see what his suit looks like. I know you did a flat. I loved how you did the old 90s fucking Flash suit.
Oh yeah,
that was.
I did the muscles for CW.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Not that it was assembled in Vancouver, but I was one of the vendors that like the actual muscle the muscles that they used for his suit are mine.
That's cool. I know. When I saw your pictures and I was like immediately went that. So because I love that suit. I mean,
so do I.
I think that's a phenomenal Flash suit. I mean, it's such a pretty suit. I mean, just even like I remember when DC Universe, the streaming service, came back and they had Flash 90s series, and I was like, yes. I'm watching every one of these and just reliving childhood and everything. And I'm like, and just seeing that suit again. I'm like, my God, that is such a freaking,
that show can thank the Batman movie, the Keaton movie, for getting it put on the air. Even Danny Elfman did the music for it.
That's true. Yes, you're right. You're right. I know you got a heart out. You got to take off. Yeah. You got to pick up the lady friend. It's fine. But hey, you know what?
Text me.
Yeah. The door is open, man. I could talk to you forever about talking about all kinds. Well, they'll have to do this again for sure.
Totally. Yeah. And I'll try and figure out what happened in the workshop. I thought that would be like a cooler place to do this. Like there's like so much.
Of course. Stuff. Oh, dude, everybody in the chat was like, look at the background. Oh, yeah. It was like, damn it. Yeah.
But yeah, dude. Yeah. Anytime, man. I'll try and coordinate again. It's like now that COVID's over, things are ramping up a lot more. So
yeah. All right. Sounds good, man. Well, like I said, everybody follow Sean ReevzFX. Yes, everywhere. ReevzFX, ReevzFX.com too, right? You have a website, all that stuff. Check out his stuff. Like I said, it's great. And Sean, thank you for joining, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Cheers.
All right.
Happy Friday.
Cheers, take it easy. Cool. Man, I'm telling you, I want to pick his brain even more. See, we got some stuff though. Little nuggets of things right there, I tell you. But man. Yeah, I mean, the guy's like within the biz. I didn't know that he, helped design some of the Flash CW stuff too, man. And then that Wolverine stuff, woo! I tell you what, man. So he's got a picture of Hugh Jackman in a Wolverine cowl on his phone. That is so cool. That is so freaking cool. Yeah, so if I didn't know that they were doing an LA Comic-Con. I don't know why I didn't know that, but yeah, I think definitely I'm gonna try to I'm gonna hit that up and be like, hey, and if I could find him, definitely would be like, hey, show me the picture, please show me that picture of Wolverine in there. But I want to see the rich picture of him breaking. I know, right? The Citroen. See, now I gotta like. Because I talked to Citroen and I wonder if I can get Citroen to like show up again and just be like, let's do this. Show you have a picture of something. The thing is though, they sign all these NDAs and they're not allowed to do, to show stuff. And man, I tell you, it's sending out invites, seeing who shows up. I usually do this before. I usually send the invites before, the guest takes off or something like that. But I was just so like, oh, what else can I ask? I want to just say, what's your favorite bat suit? I thought about that. I'm like, I'm not going to ask him what his favorite bat suit is. I'm not, because I'm sure he gets that question a lot. And, he and then he even said that it's like, yeah, he gets that question a lot. Of course. Why wouldn't you get that question a lot? I mean, when you're like making bat suits just as, and it's not even like he's just doing that. I mean, yeah, he has the business side of like making suits and shit like that. And, he's working within the business. He does all that, but then he just does this stuff. Like he has an authentic Keaton suit. Okay. He has an authentic Keaton suit. And then he's designing, it's just bat suits are like, all right, let's do this version of that or something like that. And then he's designed the BVS suit and then the JL Batflex suit. I mean, that's pretty crazy too, to think about. And see, we always suspected that cowl was more limited because you could tell because when it came to BVS, Ben Affleck was able to move his neck way more. It seemed like it was a little more loosey-goosey. Comes to Justice League, you could see that he was doing more of the Batman turn. I don't hate the suit, not at all, but man, it's just kind of crazy to think that, wow, I mean, that suit is literally, that cowl is a little bit more, a little constrictive. Besides the Batfleck suit, which is your favorite suit? Well, I'm with Sean, man. I love the 89 Batman suit. I do. I love the 89. And the fact that we just learned that tonight too, that's actually feet, like it's not part of the tail. That's insane to me. So, yeah. Oh, not that. That's not what I meant. I was trying to send out stuff. Anyways, so yeah, I would say like that. That's why, I appreciate that, Mr. Steven Tanner. See if anybody wants to show up right now. But no, I would love to pick his brain. Oh, damn. Oh, wow. That sucks. I'm sorry. I just got a message. No, I'd love to pick his brain even more, when it comes to certain things and just like other things that he was involved with and stuff like that. And then even go over like the various, obviously it's funny too, because yeah, I remember him tweeting that he was not a fan of the Pattinson suit. I dig it because I think it's something very unique and, something very different. Like it seemed like but he's right though. They were trying to go as far away from what we've seen so far that cargo pants. If only Keaton Bat could turn his head. Yeah, but at the same time, Keaton, he he made that his thing though. He perfected the bat turn. He was the first one. He was the first one to just perfect that, the full on shoulders turning kind of thing, That's why I said like that shot of Keaton when after the Batmobile just like blew up Axis Chemicals and then it pulls up and then the Joker copter, that shot is such a beautiful shot, and the way that he turns. And then you got that shot on top of like the church, the bell tower, when he does that same turn. Like Keaton really did a good job of like perfecting the bat turn, because he had to. He's a professional. And I just love that, like just turn your complete shoulders. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, in real life, Batman can't hear shit, he can't really see stuff, and then can't turn his neck. So much there. So anyways, but yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I could pick his brain. I could pick that guy's brain like crazy, Sadly, he had a heart out. He was still working, and then of course, he had to pick up his girlfriend and stuff. So, but yeah, we'll get him back on here so we could talk a little bit more. I was trying to squeeze. It's like there's, he knows some things when it comes to, this stuff, but yeah, sometimes it's just like, does he? He can only say so much when it comes to that. And I think when it comes to Keaton's bat suit in the Flash, it's like, well, what are we gonna get with that? Well, it's probably gonna, obviously he's 70 years old. We're gonna get something where it's like, there's gonna be some assistance, like there's gonna be like a little bit of like a Kingdom Come armored bat. There's gonna be something. There's got to be something where he well, he'll be able to, like maneuver as a fucking old man. It's going to be interesting to see. The Keaton bat turns. Yeah, it's a very beautiful thing. Very beautiful thing. Hey, what's going on, Mr. Tony, man? How you doing, sir? How you doing? I didn't, you know what? I didn't realize that you had what you posted recently about your 2-year anniversary, man. Cheers to you. I didn't realize you, had the heart thing. I was like, saw that and I went, wow. That's pretty crazy. Never knew that about you. But I'm glad that everything's good with that. So, all right, let's see here, Mr. Colbert. What is up, sir?
Hey,
there's a going.
Pretty good. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. Were you listening to that interview?
I was. That was awesome. I've followed him and interacted some on social media, so I was aware of like kind of sort of what he does, and obviously it's all, you know, super cool because he does it professionally, but also is clearly a hardcore fanboy.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of that's really cool. Or like just knowing that I figured there was some kind of Jackman. I actually would have figured they'd done an actual costume test and then decided against it. But if like it's possible that that's the only picture of him in that style cowl is kind of crazy, right?
Yeah. And then the fact that it's like he can't even show that unless, you know, obviously. And it's just so funny because, you know, I mean, he's not even wearing like an entire suit. Like he said, he's like wearing like a maroon like shirt, and then he's got just a cowl on, and he's just pressed up against the wall, and it's the fact that he can't even show that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like he made something, you know, himself. It wasn't like for anything. He just fucking made it like himself, and then Hugh Jackman catches wind of it and goes, I want one. And then he sends it over to him, takes a picture, thinking that, oh, yeah, he's just going to take a picture with it, you know, displayed or something. No, Hugh Jackman puts it on. And that just, I mean, that to me, it just goes like, I just think, yeah, Hugh Jackman, of course. I mean, he would put it on. I don't know. For some reason, I could just totally see Hugh Jackman going, no, I'm actually going to put this thing on. You know, and I think like when we think about these actors that take up these roles, I mean, you do a role for fucking almost 2 decades. I mean, or for 2 decades, I should say. I mean, if he gets sent something like that he can actually put on, he's going to put it on, you know? So, yeah, but yeah, hopefully, I mean, I didn't realize there was going to be an LA Comic-Con in December. I did not realize that.
Isn't there normally? I don't know. I don't follow the cons.
I mean, there is like in LA. I think there is like, yeah, there is, but it's never as big. You know,
right.
It's weird because it's LA, but I didn't know it was like, because I know San Diego is like in November. I didn't know it was like going to be like right after that. I don't know. I was just, I mean, I guess I should have, but Jesus Christ. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, who knows what even happens at this point, just because they're all.
Oh, dude, I know. When it comes to LA County, the mask mandates are coming back. Foo Fighters, I was trying to get tickets to their show that they were going to have. They canceled it.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, man. This thing just won't end. But yeah, I don't know. But I was trying to squeeze anything I can get. And then just learning that I always thought it was the 3-spiked tail. Apparently, it's feet.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess it kind of makes sense.
It does.
Why would they have a 3-spiked tail instead of feet? But also, it's so like, I guess there's so little detail in the suit that feet wouldn't necessarily like stand out clearly as feet. Yeah, regardless.
It wouldn't. Yeah. But I'm just kind of wondering, like, I mean, what I always found funny about that symbol was like, you know, but with everything else, with all the promotion, obviously they used like the generic, you know, bat symbol, even though they like tweaked it movie wise. Like, you know, the yellow wasn't as yellow. It was like more of like a tan orange kind of thing, you know, and but they like anytime that you saw like the symbol when it came to promotion, it was the traditional bat symbol. And then when you watch the movie, you know, he's got that, which is like, I don't know. I remember just growing up and always going, that was always just weird to me. But then now knowing like, oh, obviously they're not going to promote it with this random crazy, the first Batman movie, they're not going to promote it with feet. I guess more you could say feet.
Well, and it's weird because I don't have much of a personal attachment to like any of those. I was always a huge Batman fan, but I had obviously the Batman the Animated Series was big.
Yeah.
And I had the VHS for the Batman 66 movie. And then I had like some of the older cartoons also, like the Super Friends era. It wasn't Super Friends, it was the Batman and Robin ones though, that were like so cheesy. They were very Batman.
It was Casey Kasem playing Robin, right?
Yeah, I think so. Where like when they drive the Batmobile, it was like the same 4 buildings just flashing by in the background. And then the 1940s black and white serial was what I watched. But like the Burton live action stuff and even the Schumacher stuff was like never really my bag. I think when it originally came out, I was like just young enough that it was like maybe like I don't know, too scary or too serious or whatever. And then even when I was older, it just didn't necessarily appeal to me. The live action stuff didn't really appeal to me until Nolan is when I really like got into that. Which is weird. It's not like I wasn't a Batman fan before. It was just the I don't know, the movies didn't really
Do
it for me. So as a result, like, you know, people have all this nostalgia over Keaton, and it's like I just never really clicked for me. And not that I think he's phenomenal, and I think the movies are great too. Like for having, you know, rewatched them as an adult, it's like, yeah, that's good, but like I just have no like childhood connection to them.
Yeah. No, and I love the fact that he kind of, you know, he confirmed what I suspected happened was, yeah, when they had Burton do 89 and they were like, all right, we're going to try to achieve this thing. We're going to reinvent Batman. And it probably was like, you know, a lot of, well, I don't want to say it was like a film by committee, but there was probably, you know, there's a lot of moving pieces where like, we have to make this a success. This is fucking Batman, the first movie. So let's make it just dark and, you know, gothic and all this stuff like that. And Tim Burton puts his little stamp on it. But then when that was such a success, when it came to Batman Returns, they were like, have at it, Tim. And he did. He fucking did, because I mean, just how different those two movies are. I mean, it's just the second one. I mean, Returns. That's why I just kind of go. I mean, it's such a Tim Burton movie. I mean, it takes place in a fucking snow globe, and you have Denny Elfman. Denny Elfman's score just going. Oh, oh. I mean, it's just so Tim Burton.
And I feel very much like Batman '89, especially, very much has that vibe where you're coming at it from both directions. Where on one side you've got the Burton, like it's very Burton in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah.
But also you can feel the pressure from. I feel like the studio pressure at the time was different because there wasn't this concept of like what is a live action Batman, or like what does, like, the protection of the IP didn't seem quite on the same level so much as execs just didn't understand the appeal at all. Whereas now they're like, oh no, we have to protect, Superman has to be this way and Batman has to be that way. Whereas back then it was more just like, nobody wants to see these, so how do we make it appeal to mainstream? And so I feel like you've got Burton on one hand, who unhindered, I feel like he would have done something like really weird with Batman, and like taken that and like, because like Sean said, with Burton, it's like, how do you, and it's funny, Snyder said a very similar thing and got a ton of flack for it, but he's like, how do you depict him in this suit seriously, like without drawing some laughs? And there's a lot of like tonal and atmospheric and design things you kind of do to mediate that. And so with the studio input, I'm sure there's a lot of like, how do we make this appeal to general audiences? But you take like Edward Scissorhands, Tim Burton, and be like, how do you take the Batman concept and make it work? I feel like he'd be like, oh yeah, no, he's an orphan and he wears rags and he's like, I don't know,
right?
like I don't know. Not that it would have been like, I don't know how far of a departure it would be, but I could see him going like far weirder with his initial like way more BDSM, but like, you know, Batman always has Batman has always had that like underlying like Aronofsky was going to go that route.
That's what I was going to bring up. I'm like, Aronofsky was going to go pretty far from what we know as and I feel like that probably would have been like a lot closer to like what we would have gotten with Burton probably in '89. Probably. And then the fact that he kind of like compared it to like how Warner Brothers treated like Snyder, when it's like, okay, gave him Man of Steel, and, you know, I mean, I don't think people were as, I mean, even though Man of Steel was like, hey, cool, you know, whatever, I think there was still like more divisiveness than there was with like Batman '89. But at the same time, it's like, all right, they were confident enough to be like, Zach, all right, do whatever. Oh, you want to remember Batman into this? Cool. And then when he did what he wanted to do, they were kind of, that's when they started going, well, wait a minute. This might be, I don't know. We're trying to do this over here. I mean, the biggest thing when it came to Burton not doing the third Batman film, even though he was basically, I mean, it was supposed to, and even Keaton was like gung-ho to do the third one too. It was just, you know, the whole thing of not being able to sell fucking Happy Meal toys. And I remember those Happy Meal toys from Batman Returns. They were pretty awesome. They were like all in cars, and they, for some reason, like Catwoman had a car, Penguin had a car, and then you had the Batmobile, and then Batman in the Batmobile. It was
that was like the thing with McDonald's toys back then, though, right? It was like every single movie, it was like, let's put everyone in cars.
It was.
Did that like wasn't Space Jam or something like that? The same thing too. I remember like there was like a Bugs Bunny car or something that stretched out.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right, because it was always like, we have these moldings of just things in cars, and everybody like kids love cars, right? Because you can, and it did
Batman
make
car,
sense.
Penguin car, Catwoman car.
Yeah, and it was cool. I remember the Batmobile. Like you had Batman in like I think you had him in the you know, in Batman Returns when he goes through that poorly engineered, you know, when the buildings were like just had like this much space in between them. Yeah. Who knows who engineered that in Gotham City? But yeah.
Hey, there are, if you travel much to cities that are like older, you know, that were built like big cities that were built, you know, a few hundred years ago. It's surprising how often you get something. You get like a little bit in like Canada, but also in like, you know, Europe, more European stuff. In the US, so much of our stuff is so much newer that like everything is designed to fit a car.
Yeah.
But like you go to places in Europe and you're like, how are you supposed to? Why did they like they knew, they were aware of how much space there was when they built that? Just make it like, you know, you could barely fit a person in that. Yeah. Like, either bring it all together or separate. I don't know why.
Decision.
Yeah.
No, but like he was, so I think he was in something like that. Like you had Batman, and then you had the Batmobile by itself, and then it literally had like a button where it shot off like the front end, of it, like a missile. And I was like, it was really cool. Like I loved those toys, you know.
Yeah, but that was that kind of seemed like the go-to, not just for Happy Meal toys though, but for like any Batmobile. I feel like most of the Batmobiles in the 90s were like had a torpedo nose kind of thing going on. Or I had the Batman the Animated Series one where the back pops out and it's the bat plane. The wings come down.
I remember that. I think even like I remember my best friend when I was living in Alabama when Batman Returns came out. Yeah, he had the full-on Batmobile that just like did break off into that fucking little missile type, you know, Batmobile, which was just so cool. But then even recently, there's a Twitter handle that was showing like Batman toys and stuff like that, and they showed the Batman Returns toy line, and it literally has a very non-movie accurate Penguin. It's a total comic book like accurate Penguin, and then it has Robin as part of the line. I'm like, and I remember like buying that figure, and you know what's kind of funny is like I remember that, you know, because I loved that Robin figure, but I had no idea, like from my memories of like what toy line was this from, or was it just like a random figure that I saw at Toys R Us and it was Robin and looked badass and I bought it. I did not realize that was part of the Batman Returns toy line.
Well, because didn't back then, because I know they did it with the Bat Cave. Yeah. But didn't they have a bunch of toys that basically just got new paint jobs for for each line? Yeah, it was like the same mold, and they were just like, "Oh no, this is the '89 one. This is the Returns one."
They did that so much, and you know, there's like an awesome, and it'd be cool if, but I know they're not doing any more episodes, but on Netflix, you know, the Toys That Made Us or whatever the hell. Have you seen that docuseries? Yeah, when they talk about, you know, what goes into like all that, and you know how much time it could take, and how like rushed everything gets. I mean, you understand, like I had that Batcave Wayne Manor thing, but it was for Batman '89, and then they repurposed it for Batman Returns, and then repurposed it again for the animated series. And I remember even as a kid going, you know, I even had the sense of going, that's what I have. It's just different color. Yeah, that's all it is. You know, so yeah, I mean, but you kind of understand it a little bit because I don't know, like when it comes to the logistics of getting a toy line out there in time.
I think the fascinating thing about that series, to understand like how all the toys and tie-in merchandising stuff works with these movies, if you understand the history of like Star Wars and like toys and merchandise, which is told in that show, or also I think a more recent example, you have a lot of Snyder fans asking like why, like where's the merch? Not like where is it, like because there's a lot of stuff that you can buy, but it's like why is there? First of all, there's not as much of it as people would expect, although there is a lot. But then the stuff that there is, there's so many pre-orders, like the McFarlane stuff is like rolling out so slowly, and they're like, why wasn't this? Which I think that's if you back up a little bit, it's a good glimpse at like how complicated arranging this kind of stuff earlier on in the process is, because this movie, if it were done in the original proper production timeline, you would have this stuff would have been in the works 3 years prior to the prior to the release. But like with Zack Snyder's Justice League, you got a 1 year heads up where there's no, it's not going to happen, and then yes, it's going to happen, and then you just have a year of like finishing the editing and VFX, and during that time, McFarlane has to design and produce and distribute. All these lines have to just create merchandise out of nothing, which is easy. That's why there's so many T-shirts. T-shirts are easy.
Right. T-shirts are very easy, yeah.
But all the other toys, and that's why you're just even now like the Cyborg, is it Hot Toys doing a Cyborg finally?
I think so, yeah. They posted that like last week, I think.
That looks cool. I mean, so many of these like high end figures. Like there's a Steppenwolf. Who is it? It's like a 3 or 4 foot tall Steppenwolf figure from one of the. It's not Hot Toys, but it's one of the other big ones. It weighs like 6 pounds or something like that.
Is it the Weta? It's not the Weta Workshop.
No, it's not Weta. It's Anyway, I don't.
No, I know what you're talking about. I know Weta Workshop. Well, I guess they're not really toys. They're like literally like sculptures of what they're doing over there. I know. Isn't Scott supposed to get one of those?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he realized how big it's gonna be. It's like, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, man, I got a lot of shit already, but and I want more, but at the same time, I'm like, where am I gonna freaking put it, man? It's like, I don't know. I mean, I gotta move to a bigger place or something like that. But no, it's just always fascinating. I remember like even going back to like the Batman toys. I mean, one of the cool. it was so ridiculous, but it was cool at the time. It was like obviously you had anytime a Batman movie comes out, they literally just come up with concepts that were not in the movie. Like you have, we got Aqua Batman, and he's got like a bright fucking yellow suit and shit like that. But it's all off the same moldings and stuff like that. It's just, he's got, this.
And sometimes it's based on like early designs and plans for the movie, and sometimes it's not.
So you never know.
That's what was funny about the Snyder Cut stuff, is because you remember there was like people were convinced that there was supposed to be like Lex in his armor suit and all that stuff because there were toys for it. But also like you go back to Man of Steel and you've got all these crazy Superman stuff that's like they were like no. Sometimes they just have extra stuff.
But one of the coolest things that I remember got it on Christmas morning, was they had like a version where it's like you can have Bruce Wayne, but you could put his costume on, and you literally could put the cowl on him, you could put the chest piece, and it had the the cape, of course, and then like you could put his gauntlets on, and then his boots also. But as much as like it looked cool because when he had like the cowl on, it wasn't like just white eyes. The cowl didn't go around the chin, so it was like the chin was exposed. The gauntlets looked like he was, like he had a couple of like, rock'em sock'em fucking, they were like bigger than his arms, and same thing with like, so it didn't really work. Like, but at the time it was like, that's cool. You can actually turn them into. Well,
because the alternative at the time was the big ones were the Power Rangers ones that had the double. Remember the chest opened up and they had the head would flip. And it was so tiny. And the chests were. It was like huge. What's the Deadpool guy? Liefeld. It's like a Rob Liefeld drawing of the Power Rangers.
Yeah, that's right.
Like so barrel chested.
Yeah, I remember those. I had
a Batman one that had Bruce's head was spring loaded, but it would go down into his shoulders, and there was a chest piece and alternate head with cape that you could put up on top of that. That was pretty cool because that allowed you to keep it more proportional. But yeah, I mean, so much of that stuff was so kind of funny and that's why as an adult looking at hot toys and stuff, obviously it's a totally different market because you're talking like hundreds of dollars instead of $10. But yeah, you look at that stuff and you're like, oh wow, that's like, you're talking about like the chin or whatever. And it's like, oh no, these are like 2 scale replicas of like the costumes and stuff that actually fit on these things. Like, man, I want that.
Right. No, I remember there was even like I had a version of the Batmobile that was partly a Batmobile and partly Bruce Wayne's car. I don't know. They try to do this whole thing where it was like, and you literally would have, you can have Bruce Wayne just like driving in this car that only fits one person, obviously. And then you hit a switch and it would flip over and it's like, oh, now he's Batman. He's switched over, and then you can attach the fucking fins, and it was so ridiculous. Like they try to do that, but I was so in love with that concept of like, oh, you see him change. I want to see him change. So I bought into it. I begged my mom and dad, like, I need this. He could change. Look it's like a magic trick. You don't know. I want to know how it works.
It's the infamous Batcave did that. I remember that blew my mind as a 4-year-old or whatever, watching the commercial where you put him in the thing and then you turn it and he's in the bat suit. Yeah, and literally it's just an alternate toy that you have. Yeah,
it's all it is. Yeah,
behind there.
Same thing with the car. Yeah.
Oh man, I remember seeing it in the commercial and being like, "How do they do it? Yes. I don't know how they do it. That's insane. It's magic."
They knew exactly what they're doing. I mean, same thing with those Power Rangers toys, because you're like, "Whoa, you see that? Like it's the secret identity, and then it's the hero."
Well, and that was at the early ages of like where they were just starting to learn how to like really mess with kids' heads.
Yes,
because they'd have that. They'd be like, ask your parents for the Batman.
I know.
Like the Batcave
set. Ask your parents,
and it's like,
man. And then I remember those Power Rangers toys. First off, kudos to them for making those Power Rangers toys were like this fucking tall. Yeah. And they had.
Well, I remember someone that would have like the Megazords, like where you could put them all together. That was like half as tall as I was at the. I mean, I guess it's all in perspective because I was like 2.5 feet tall at the time. So I was like, man, this is as big as I am.
Yeah, dude. I remember when like. It was funny too because those things were like, I mean, they were even in the docuseries when they talk about the Power Rangers, they talk about how they were such in high demand. You couldn't find them anywhere. And I remember and then when it came to Christmas time, I remember walking into a Toys R Us with my mom. And I don't know why my mom took me to a Toys R Us in December. That's just mommy out there. How dare you do that? But at the same time, I remember walking in, I'll always remember this, where there was like, sometimes, you'd see like a shopping cart that had just a bunch of random toys in it because they had to like go stock them. Walking in, and there was like a fucking Green Ranger and Dragon Zord. Sorry, I was like Zoid. I'm like thinking Freakazoid. A Dragon Zord, and it came together as a package deal.
Oh man!
And I was like, blew my mind. I was like, oh my god, it's the Green Ranger's Tommy. Blah blah blah. And but of course it's Christmas time, so my mom was like, and I, of course, just go through the aisles that I usually would go through at Toys R Us. I come back, it's not in the cart anymore. And I'm like, what happened to it? And then she was like, I don't know. I think somebody just came up and bought it. And then sure enough, Christmas morning, what did I get from Santa Claus? The Dragon Zord. See,
there you go.
There it is. Mama Film Junkee. Awesome stuff. And then we got Mr. Ray Flightcast.
Hey.
What's up, bud?
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Yes, congratulations, sir. Let's raise the glass. Ray bit the bullet, and now he's engaged.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. No, last time I talked to you, I only had a girlfriend. Now I have a fiance.
There it is.
How does your girlfriend feel about that?
She won't take the ring off. Like seriously, like it's just like been on her finger like the whole time. No, it's still very surreal. Like in many ways, it's like, wow, really? So like that this at some point you're gonna be my wife and I'm gonna be your husband. Wow.
Yeah.
So no, it's awesome though. It is. It's really cool. It's great. She loves the ring. She absolutely. It's the most time I've been told "good job" by like so many people. They're like, "You're done good. You're done good," and it's like, "Well, thank you."
There's the value of getting that part right. Like I hate having to focus on things like stuff like that. Like to me, could be considered trivial by some. I'm not saying it is for anybody watching. But I could understand how people would be like, "Oh no, it's a formality or it's a whatever." But like that, I know enough people who like didn't take it seriously enough that like you can know like there's no redoing that.
Right.
There's no you can't give a different ring or redo the way you propose in like if you I don't know. It's not that anyone really botches it, but I know people who like have held resentment for like years over like minor things like, oh, that's just not a good way to enter.
and that was like all the nerves that like I had like leading up to that moment. That's really what it was. It was just don't fuck it up. Don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
That was Scott's advice to me. Like I told him like
I think he told me that backstage with like what our bad. He's like, I just told him don't fuck it up. I think he told me that.
we were recording our one of our last Patreon reviews.
Yes.
For Crow, and the last thing he told me was don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
because that was the last I think it. So yeah, it was in my head. Like I wasn't necessarily thinking of him, but it was just like
don't fuck it up.
Right. Let's just have this go off without a hitch because I want it to be special and I want it to be a big moment. And I knew that I knew I hadn't gone wrong as far as the ring went because that was one of the ones that she sent me. Because she sent me like several different ones over the years.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was like the most recent one that she had sent me. I was like, okay, well, and they all like all of them, like, you know, she loves the pear shape. So it's like, okay, cool. I will just stick with I know what she likes. Right. And that's literally like the best case scenario, right? When you don't have to guess what they like, when they flat out tell you or show you, here, this is what I like. And then you just have to decide if you're going to nut up and actually buy it.
Yeah.
Which I decided, yeah.
So you were in a situation that it sounds like where your anxiety wasn't so much like the notion of her like saying no wasn't really a concern. Like the answer was already a foregone conclusion. It was just whether or not the process was done to.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I think that I would say that's. I mean, obviously I've never done it, but I'm just saying I would think like the main thing, you know, that they're gonna say yes, but it's all the way of like the presentation.
Yeah.
And
well, most of the time, that's why I asked though, because sometimes you hear about it and like someone says like, "Oh, I was hoping they'd say yes" or whatever, and it's like, "Whoa, you bought a ring and like you guys hadn't talked." Like,
you have to be pretty damn sure. I think.
Yeah. Well, that's and Shonda has said this. She's like, "Don't ask that question. No man should ask that question unless they're certain."
Yeah.
What the answer is they're going to get. So I feel like the people that get the wrong answer, it's like, well, you didn't do your homework.
Exactly.
You didn't do enough of your homework on
yeah,
that
when you see like some of these videos where like they try to do it at like some sporting event or something like that, and it doesn't go well. It's like what or was and my question is always like, is it just because she didn't want to do it in front of 50,000 people? Is that maybe she wanted it to? I don't know. Anytime I've seen that. Like that kind of situation, I kind of question. Like,
there's sometimes that is like, and usually, and they will say most of the people that would like that will say like, "Oh, that's how I want to be proposed to." But yeah, a good rule of thumb is unless they say I want to be proposed to on the kiss cam, don't propose on the kiss cam.
No, well, and that's the thing is like even going I knew she wouldn't go for anything like that, but like just there was deliberation because this was a whole like involved thing with some very good friends of mine that have watched the Vodka stream the last couple of weekends that I've been on. But like,
it's so great to have friends that watch you.
Yeah, well, friends and
none of my like real life friends are involved in any of my like. I like keep it totally separate.
Oh, dude, I try to keep it separate from work life. That's how.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
about it.
Yeah. I mean, well, I guess it depends on like where you're at with all of this, everything that we're doing. I'm not that different in real life than I am here.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody was. Anyway,
which some people may look at my Twitter account and be like, "Oh well, shit, damn, he's like that in real life." Okay, but like, no, but there was definite deliberation and like, okay, where is it going to be? How many and this clandestinely and had to be real careful because she's very perceptive and definitely like pays attention and is very observant to like any change in behavior. So I'm clandestinely asking her, hey, who would, if anybody else were around for the proposal, who would you be okay with? And determined that she'd be cool with like a small group of friends or family, and was like, okay, well, I basically used all information I had to determine the best course of action to further reinforce the 95% yes that I was certain I was going to get. But to be clear, being a Detroit sports fan, I'm never comfortable until the clock ticks 0. So there was a small part of me that was like, still nervous about the answer, but I was largely and even said that to my friends, to which they said, "Shut up, Ray. She's going to say yes," which she did. So yeah, but that's There's a lot of thought and a lot of planning and everything that like goes into that if you wanted to like do it right.
It's true that, man. But hey, as long as you pulled it off, it's behind you now. Congrats.
Well, that is now all that's seemingly the easiest part, right, Steve?
Yeah. Now you gotta plan the fucking thing.
Right, like everything else now is like, and the life that we are now building together. That's where this is where the real work starts.
When it comes to planning, I mean, you're gonna do probably what 10% maybe. I don't know. I mean, like when it comes to planning,
well,
it's usually the one. It's usually the woman that probably is like the more of the planner, right?
I don't know about this one because it's this one seems to be more collaborative between the two of us, at least so far. So far, it's definitely a more collaborative process in terms of like because you also got to remember how long we've been dating, which if people don't know, we've been dating for 12 years.
Yeah,
but that was literally our 12-year anniversary that I decided to do this on. So. This isn't like a fresh thing. It's not like, oh, I have no idea what she's thinking or she has no idea what I'm thinking. No, we have good ideas.
Yeah.
We're at least on similar page. We're at least reading the same book. We may not always be on the same page, but we're at least reading the same book when it goes to this stuff. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's where with like the planning, it's different for everyone. Some men don't want to be involved, some do. The only consistent advice that I've seen, or not that you necessarily need advice, but for just on the topic, is it's always best for the man. Always have an opinion. Always have a strong opinion about every choice that goes into the wedding, but never have an opinion stronger than hers.
Well, unless she, okay, but what if she asks for one?
Then you have a strong one, but if she disagrees with it, then you say, "Oh no, your idea is better."
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was.
But never be like, "Oh no, you would care more about that than I would," or like that's a you decision. Like,
that's our dynamic. That would never work.
Awesome.
It would never be a case where like I would, and it wouldn't even be a case where like she's upset because I have a stronger opinion. It would literally just be like, oh, okay, you feel that strongly about it. Well, let's figure this out. I feel this strongly, but like there would be some kind of a dialogue between that. And I originally I want, and she's very persuasive with a number of things. I mean that like in a good way. Like she was, I was for years. Like I have a much bigger family than she does, so I got it in my head that I always wanted like the big, huge, massive wedding with like over 100 people and giant spectacle of things. And then and she was never really about that at all, and she just bided her time. And we had like there was our friend's wedding that we went to back in May, and then there was another wedding that I went to, another friend of mine that got married about a month ago or a couple weeks ago. And I think she just planted she basically Leo DiCaprio. She Dom Cobbed me, basically.
She inceptioned you.
And planted the idea of a lower impact wedding in my head, and then placed me in a scenario where I saw higher impact weddings and went, oh, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to plan. I don't want to plan all of that. I don't want to spend all that.
The real easy way to make that decision is once you start looking at pricing and you're like, oh, something smaller might be a nice like.
Totally.
Yeah, okay. I mean, take it from somebody I've filmed many weddings. I used to do that, like, and then I just got tired of it because it was like, I mean, it was always the same thing, and it was seeing like different types of weddings. Yeah, I mean, having a small thing, it can be good. And, something just contained. Those always seem like those were always like the better ones. Anything that was like bigger when it was like, a big turnout and stuff like that. It just seemed like it was just a headache. It was such a headache when it came to stuff.
We ended up, it's welcome to the Vodka Stream wedding edition.
I know, apparently.
The wedding planning. we ended up we like prioritized and ranked kind of the things that we cared about, and ended up having a pretty good mix of like a reasonably sized guest list, but then there's a lot of things that like we were willing to slash from our the way that we did it. Like we said, okay, like a photographer we splurged on or moderately splurged, because that's going to be how they're going to be able to elevate the look, and also that's going to be the lasting memories that we have from it. Whereas like we didn't spend much, if anything, like we didn't get like a bunch of flowers for everybody and like a big flower display for the sanctuary at the church where we got married and stuff, because that ends up being like hundreds of dollars or more that is in 20 minutes of the entire day. And I'd done a bunch of work with a guy that owned a comedy club, and we got married over Labor Day weekend, and so on a Monday night, so it wasn't a show night, and so we were able to get in there as our reception venue, and they had a bunch of memorabilia in the lobby, and it was a really cool kind of setup. But as a result, we didn't have to pay like the per seat or the per plate cost for guests, but we had like the similar looking venue with lighting and all the other stuff. And so it's kind of cool once you kind of decouple yourself from the like, this is the template that you follow for all weddings. And you're like, oh no, we don't care about flowers, or maybe you do, but whatever. Those being willing to just say like, nope, we're not doing that. Suddenly that's like thousands of dollars that you save on.
It's just a big business of just like everybody's like, I mean, when you get the wedding planner, they know their connections, they know all that. I mean, and then they're going to be like, let's go over here for the flowers and everything. So, and then, I remember just when I would film these, I mean, obviously, you get a videographer, they're going to charge a lot. I didn't charge a lot. I was always like the discount guy that somebody knew, like, hey, somebody's getting married. That's I'll do it. I have this template that I started, and I kind of been using, and they always seem to dig it. But man, I mean, what's always funny about, when it comes to the wedding day, I mean, it's because I always like to get everything, I'm always like one of those, I'm like, I'm not going to just get the ceremony and then the after party or whatever, the recital, or what do they call it?
Reception.
Reception. That's a recital. Yeah. What is this? School again. Oh no, but like I like to get like the pre. I was always one of those like I want to see the groomsmen getting ready and the brides and the bridesmaid getting ready, But then I slowly realized that wow, the guys are having a great time. Not so much the ladies. I mean, it's like ooh. I mean, there was one time, shit you not, I thought a fight was gonna happen with the bride and the bridesmaids. I was pressed up against the wall holding my camera going, man, am I going to get something on camera here that might go viral? I mean, I was like literally going, man, they're like getting pissed at each other right now. Like it got to the point where like,
and then like an hour later, they were like,
fine. Yeah. It was all good.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I filmed a wedding where like the bride was very disappointed in her bridesmaids, but like at the same time, it's like always the grooms and the groomsmen, they're taking shots, everybody's having a good time. They're posing for pictures.
I can't vouch for. I didn't see anything on the bride. My sister's wedding about 6 years ago. I was one of the groomsmen, and like I don't know what happened. I wasn't privy to. I heard things, but I wasn't privy to everything that happened on the bride's side. But on the groom's side, like that day, like they got married in the fall during football season, and so it was on a Saturday, and we're all like Michigan football fans. Ooh. So there. That's so what are the so right? So the guys are all chilling and doing whatever. But what are they also doing every 10 minutes? Well, I'm the one with the cell phone. So like, Ray, what's the score? Every 10 minutes, Ray, what's the score? They won the game that day, thankfully. But like, but that's how like loosey goosey it was like, okay, where's the score at? What's going on? Like that's how laid back. And I imagine that's probably the case 9 times out of 10 with like the groomsmen is just like, yeah, let's just go ahead and we're just waiting for the actual like the for some reason the pressure isn't there, and I don't know why. Like I'm sure a lot of that is like, I don't know, institutionalized or historical or whatever. I don't know, but it's just it's a totally different environment between like the guys and the women.
I think a lot of it is institutionalized, but for a variety of different reasons, I think a lot of women have been anticipating what this day is going to be like for far longer and far more specifically than the men do. And so for the men, it's just like, hey, if I'm married at the end of the day, it's great. Whereas they've got this list of like, these things need to happen because I've been.
It's not for the guys. It's for her.
And
she's the center of attention. Yeah.
And they've been told what to expect.
Yeah.
By moms, grandmas, aunts, like all of that.
And now all those moms, grandmas, and aunts who are all there trying to either replicate their day or prevent the same mistake.
Oh, you want to talk about living vicariously through someone else? Seriously, like, I mean, beyond like soccer games or like anything else that you do with your kids, it's like that day is like exactly what you said. Either this is going to be the most special day in my baby's life, or she's not going to make the same mistakes that I made.
Exactly. Well, it's always clear when the family swoops in that have this like very specific, like, well, you got to make sure you don't X, Y, Z. And it's like, I don't really care about that. That seems like a really specific concern.
Helicopter families and helicopter families with weddings. Yeah. Did you deal with that? Did you and Amanda deal with that at all?
No, fortunately, not really. And if we did, I'm like probably not a shocker, just kind of ignore people. So I just kind of do my own thing anyway. It's like, oh, I guess if you're going to have expectations for that, you're going to be disappointed because it's not going to influence what I'm doing. But no, I think on the whole, we have always had kind of relatively safe boundaries. And so people knew not to like come and try to, interfere too much.
Well, that's good.
But I know I've heard more stories though.
I know Amanda's posted like images from your guys' wedding. It looked like it was a good time.
It's so fun.
Yeah, it looked like you guys had a very good time. I mean, yeah, just from the images I saw. But yeah, I mean, it's usually the way it is. I mean, it's always funny. Like, yeah, there's always like the stressful and by no means does a wedding the ceremony never starts on time. And I probably filmed 8, 9, 10. I don't know how many weddings I filmed. Not one started on time.
I have not been to a single wedding, family, friend, or otherwise that has started on time at all. So
it never usually does. I mean,
and even ones were like, because you know how like, back in the day it used to be like, okay, the wedding's at the church, the reception is at this hall, however many miles away, and you've got to drive and follow the procession there. But now, like my friends, like in my generation, a lot of them have done the thing where it's like the wedding is here, the reception's in the next room, like in the big, like in the big like wedding event centers and everything. Even there, where it's like the ceremony is here, the reception is there, both are late. Both are late. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that they were right there. It doesn't matter that everything was there. They're both late. So.
For that. But yeah, I know weddings crazy. Well, you guys haven't really talked about a date yet, though.
We have well, because you got again 12 years, so this has been a topic. You know what? In many ways, and I told her, I said that like a lot of like the actual proposal was trying to find a way to reclaim the surprise, because after you date for that long, it's like, well, where's the surprise when it actually happens? And so that's what a lot of the machinations and the planning into that came into play. So we've had numerous discussions about like dates, what we're going to do, and like, where it's going to be and like all that stuff. So now it's really just about, okay, now we're actually having to talk logistics because it's now officially going to happen. Like, it's one thing when you talked about it in speculation. Now it's like, oh no, it's happening. So it's really just shifting to that. But yeah, we have a tentative time frame, and now it's just about whether or not we can actually get it there. So
good. Well, congrats, man.
Cool. Thank you.
Congrats. And like I said, like Steven said, this was the wedding portion of the Vodka stream. Yeah. But we'll get back into the nerdy shit now. Well, I don't know if you caught any of when Reeves was on and caught anything. Learned some stuff. I mean, he's costume designer in the biz. The biggest one of the thing is like, you know, when it comes to the 89 Batman, and you know, we all thought, oh hey, you know, the tail of the Batman has 3 spikes. No, that's feet. That's actual feet. Did you know? Yeah.
No, I did not know that.
Exactly.
I did not know that.
He laid that on. I was like, what? He's all, oh yeah. They looked at it as feet.
Wow.
I did love his stories about reaching out like on like on MySpace to people who were he would watch the credits, and then he'd find people on MySpace who had worked on it, and then be like, hey, do you have anything you could get in that? And I think through that process is how he said he got one of the full costumes from 89.
Yeah, he's got a full Keaton Batman 89.
Which then when WB went to do some restoration a few years ago, was like he had better archived pieces of the suit as well as reference photography than WB did in their own archives.
Shocker.
Isn't that crazy? I know, right? I know. I even said that too. I'm like, yeah, Warner Brothers doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. I mean, it's sad that like this, you know, he got the suit, you know, he's a costume designer and he has it, and it's his suit is very much well kept up than what they had in their archives.
So I'm sorry if I missed it, but did he explain why? Did he go into it all? Why there's like 3 different bat symbols in the movie? Because the one that he's got on the costume is obviously very different than the one that's on all the marketing, or on the one that is like on the bat symbol, like at the end, or on the signal at the end of the movie.
No, he didn't talk about that. I just assumed, like, I think when they were trying to do all this, and I think Tim Burton was just trying to be unique with what was on his chest.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it was different, but obviously with all the marketing, it was the traditional bat logo,
right?
So because it's so recognizable. I mean, I almost want to know, like, what was the conversations like when they decided to go with that on his chest? Like, why didn't they just go with like the traditional?
I feel like there's a pretty easy to fill in the blank kind of process there of the number of people that are going to see and have an opinion on the symbol is far smaller when it's the symbol that's on the costume. Mm-hmm. Versus once you start marketing the movie or doing post, which is where like the bat signal and stuff like that would show up, you then run into like audiences have seen a first look at the suit or stuff like that and are going to have opinions on it. At which point the studio is going to be like, oh, we should go with the one that people like.
Okay, so you're thinking that like wow, before they did all the post stuff, like you said with the bat signal, obviously that was at the very end, and that's inserted probably last minute. People were like, "What's going on with this bat logo? It doesn't look like the bat logo I know." And then because if you look at that bat symbol, like at the end, which is, you know, it's an incredible shot, but at the same time, you kind of go, yeah, I mean, look at that's total like the.
Well, because like when you're constructing the suit, you're going to be looking at like what looks best for the suit and all this like in-universe stuff, and obviously you're going to be looking at like appeal also. Versus when you're looking at like, hey, let's make a logo for the movie, you're looking at broad audience recognition. You're looking at all these things that are going to come into conflict with. Like, imagine if the logo for the movie had the 3 feet, people would lose their mind over that, just for no particular reason, just because it's a thing. Sure. It's a thing to lose, lose your mind over. Yeah. Not even to lose it's just a thing that exists, and therefore it's a thing that people can lose their mind over.
So I'll tell you how like 6-year-old Ray. Whoa, you know what? Now that I think about it, I've never told this story.
Ooh.
Scott wanted me to tell this story on the first night I was here because
Scott's not here, so tell it.
No.
Scott.
He wanted me to, because I've told the story before when we did our 89 review on our Patreon about my crippling phobia of Batman 89 that I had for 5 years of my life. I'm not joking. Real phobia. Jack's Joker scared the fuck out of me.
Nice.
Absolutely terrified me. But it was really bad. It was like I couldn't watch TV for fear of a TV spot where he would show up. That's how awful it was. Like that
with Vigo and Ghostbusters 2. I'm just saying.
Okay, I totally buy that. Yes, I totally yes. Vigo terrifying. To a kid, absolutely terrifying. Totally buy that. But like it was. But my dad, I love my dad dearly, and he probably still hates that I tell this story. But my dad as much as I love him, he can be a bit of a bully sometimes.
Okay.
And you got to understand that, like, he grew up in the 60s.
Yeah.
So his Batman was Pow,
Adam
Bam, and Ziff, Adam West, Burt Ward. He's never read the comics. He probably still hasn't read the comics. He thought the movie was going to be like the show.
Yeah.
So he made me go see it at the Ford, Wyoming drive-in with my mom and my cousin Max.
Did you already know? Like, had you already seen marketing for Joker at that time, or was that your first? Okay, so you were already terrified.
I was already terrified.
You were already full blown. Can't
Absolutely.
sleep. Clown will eat me, and they took you to the drive-in to watch the clown.
Totally.
And drive-ins for people who I feel like younger people don't go to. Like, for anyone that doesn't know, like, scary stuff at a drive-in is 1,000,000 times more scary for some reason, at least to me.
No, because the screen is bigger. You're outside, which means someone can open the door and like grab you. Or
maybe there was someone hiding in the backseat of your car the whole time. Who knows?
Yeah. So, and I know what my dad was doing. He's thinking. I mean, aside from the fact that he's never read the comics and doesn't know this isn't going to be 2 hours of Pow, Bam, and Ziff. It's also a case where I have to help my son get over this phobia, and it just didn't work. It didn't work. Like, we got there and it was a double feature. It was Lean on Me and Batman 89, and Batman was on the second. So I spend 2 hours of Lean on Me and White Knuckle. Like, I'm hoping that the screen's going to fall down or the thunderstorm's going to happen. Cause I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. I remember before, like, on the way to the theater,
Clown will eat me.
when on our way to the theater, we dropped off my little sister Rachel at my grandma's. He turned the child lock on the car so that I couldn't get out of the car because I wanted him to drop me off at my grandma's the same time. He's like, no, I'm going with them. Okay, fine. So then the movie starts, right? I'm fine the first half hour because I mean, he's not there yet. But as soon as he shows up, I duck down behind the driver's seat of the car in the fetal position for an hour and a half until the movie was over. And it was like just and it was he the movie comes out on VHS.
Yeah.
He tells me, I'm gonna buy the movie, I'm gonna hook the TV up in the basement to all the speakers, and I'm gonna blast this movie through the house. We took a family trip to Target. He bought the movie. I cannot hear you. What is he saying? Oh, he's muted. You're muted.
So he was trying so hard, bless his heart. He was worried about you. He was trying to help you.
Yeah. So
as a dad of a 4-year-old now, I get it. Like,
right, exactly.
Oh,
so,
man.
Family trip to Target. He buys the movie amid my. I begged him not to buy this movie, and so he gets home. We get home. He makes good on his promise. Does it. At this point, it's like I can't even hear the movie. That's where my phobia is at. So I'm on my mom and dad's bed for 2 hours. I'm not kidding. Going la 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 for 2 hours. Seriously.
Oh, man.
Now, and I don't know this for certain, but I've always felt like perhaps he and my mom had a conversation after that night. Something that went along the lines of stop fucking with our son. More than likely, if I had to venture a guess, because he didn't do that anymore after that. But one thing that he did do was there was a shirt.
He'd wear a Nicholson Joker mask and jump out from behind corners.
No, it was a Nicholson Joker shirt that he would randomly wear around the house.
Well,
yes,
it's almost as bad.
It is almost as bad. Yeah. So I had like a 5 years I couldn't watch that movie. I could not touch that movie until, and you know what? And Tim was like, well, how did you get out of it? It was like, well, Batman Returns came out a couple years after that. Batman the Animated Series came out.
And Penguin is so much more scary than Joker. So
that's the ridiculous part, Steven, is like Penguin and Catwoman are far scarier than the Joker is in that movie. And yet I was getting older. That was the thing. Like I was growing out of it. And
do you think it was like a little fear of clowns? I mean, there's
that's the weird part. No, because like I've never had a clown phobia. Clowns are creepy as shit, but I've never had a clown phobia. Like it doesn't scare me. It never scared me, and like clowns in general, like at circuses and like any of the like no clowns never.
Yeah,
clowns are creepy, but I've never had a phobia. You know what it was? It was just like what it really was was the rictus grin. It was the makeup. It was like that like just how they had his face. See, it was because, you know, obviously with like Cesar Romero, it was just face paint or whatever. And even with like
over a mustache.
Right, exactly. Or like even in the cartoons, it's like, well, that's a cartoon. It's not real. There was just something too real about
the prosthetics that they put on him. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that being like creepy because, you know, even just going back to even memories of it, like, yeah, I could totally see like how creepy that could be.
Totally.
So that's why I see that. So it wasn't like a clown thing, you know, or anything like that.
No,
like,
no, okay. but I did love Batman, and like Batman has always been like my favorite superhero. So it wasn't like, so it was like that Christmas, like I got all the toys. Like I got the cave, I got the car, I got the plane, I got all the toys. I could play with the Joker toy because it didn't.
I was gonna say, how many Joker toys did you get from your?
Yeah, but the Joker toy didn't look like.
No, it didn't. It was like from the comics.
Same thing with the fucking Penguin in the Batman Returns line. They just like did not.
You posted about that the other day,
yeah. It did not go comic accurate when it came to the villains on the toy line. They just were like, "Hey, let's just take some of these old toys."
Because because they like we said before, they were just repainting existing toys, and they didn't have a model that matched either of those.
Yeah, because as you were telling that story, Ray, I'm going, they didn't have a Nicholson Joker.
Imagine how well, like, imagine like a Hot Toys Penguin or a Hot Toys like Nicholson Joker.
Insane, dude.
Have they not done one?
I don't know.
They haven't done a Nicholson's Joker?
They did a Nicholson one.
I think they did. Yeah. I don't think they've done. They should. You're right on the Penguin though. They should totally do a DeVito's Penguin.
Oh, dude. I mean, one of the things like
they did, and it looked awesome.
Yeah, they did do it. I had a feeling
proves that I had a good idea then.
Yeah.
They do need to do a Penguin one because I mean, one of the things that Burton was, you know, he always talked about too when he came to interviews. He was always more fascinated with the fucking villains than Batman. I mean, it was noticeable because anytime that Batman and Batman Returns, they're Batman movies, but the villains were like the main. They were always like the main, and you know, we got obviously when it came to Batman '89, we got the backstory, and of course they changed it up a little bit when it came to you know, Jack Napier, Joker, you know, instead of
Joe
Chill. I almost said Frost. I don't know why. Yeah, there it is right there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. See, I mean, that's...
Yeah, look, they're right. Look at that. See,
is that freaking you out, Ray? Are you scared?
No. Like, it was...
memories.
I have... No, but that's the thing is, like, I brought up at the beginning of our review, but it's like, I've seen this movie so many times. I love that movie. That movie's fantastic. I've seen it so many times. But, like... But if you go back and watch it, like, even, you know, like, the surgery scene...
Oh yeah,
it's so creepy.
It is creepy. I mean, it is creepy. I think there was.
It's like not. Well, I guess in a lot of ways it's similar. It reminds me of the Raimi surgery scene for Doc Ock.
Oh yeah,
where it's got that like very atmospheric, like literally like leans into the horror camp side of.
I love that scene, and that might be one of my favorite. It might be one of my favorite, not my favorite scene in Spider-Man 2, because that's like. That's where the Evil Dead came out, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like that's total. Like that, we call that. We're like, oh, this is the Evil Dead scene. Just, you know, especially like when he did the whole like the arm vision, where like you see the camera from the perspective of the arms.
It's so quintessential Raimi. I mean, like the hands clawing the ground, or like the chainsaw, like the hands shooting up. Like
when we saw the chainsaw, we cheered. We were like, yeah,
right.
Oh no, that scene was like, that was completely like just, hey, I'm gonna do this scene. This is gonna be 100% me. I mean, there's no music. It's all quick cuts and like push-ins and stuff like that. I mean, you're literally there's literally a part where you're like someone's like trying to like, you know, grab something and their fucking fingernails are dragging. You just see the, you know, I'm like,
Right, like the floor is peeling up under your fingernail.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and then you have the scream, the woman, which is like the staring. It's just the on camera, nothing, like just lighting, shadow, and just a scream. It's so.
God, he had too much fun doing that. That was that was straight from his wheelhouse.
I can imagine him in the fucking edit bay, just like arms crossed, just laughing his ass off. Like,
well, now he's gonna make the scariest MCU movie.
I know,
ever, right? That's gonna be PG-13, and you'll like it. So.
But that's why, you know. And I told people, you know, people that were so up in arms when Derrickson got pushed out of that. I said, you got to understand, guys, like for what Feige wants to do with the MCU, Raimi's style of horror fits it better than what Derrickson was going to go like straight, you know, like Event Horizon.
Derrickson is going to do like one of those things where like is that something in the shadows, and like slowly it comes into resolution, and there's a chill down your spine, and that chill never leaves your spine for the rest of your life.
Right.
Like that's what Derrickson does. Whereas like Raimi is still scary, but like there's enough. However, I think they're still going to back it off a bit, like from that Spider-Man 2 scene we're praising. But
there's like that's two different styles right there. Derrickson, like you said, there's a build up. He's got a unique style where you're just like, you know, and like the hairs on the back of your neck are starting to
like you're hyperventilating before you even realize you're hyperventilating. And like,
when it comes to Raimi, I mean, there's almost like he like injects. I mean, there's like a energy to it.
Well, I think Derrickson scares the shit out of you, whereas Raimi depicts people having the shit scared out of them.
Right.
That's good.
So there's a separation.
And he had, and this is one thing that I actually am looking forward to is his film will actually have a nice balance of humor in it.
Yeah.
Compared to the majority of the rest of the franchise, I expect Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness to actually have a very solid balance of humor.
Shut up, William. Nah, there's no plumber coming, and I'm never gonna live down that when the plumber showed up during my life. Never gonna live that down. But thank you, William, for the super chat.
Dice said, go figure. He's on the same page as me with this. That the comedy of Doctor Strange was on point. Is a little bit skeptical of Raimi's goofiness, and I'd agree with that. Actually, when I walked out of Doctor Strange with Derrickson, my reaction was, if they lean into this instead of the Whedon Gunn style. Like if this is the template for the future of the MCU, I'm happy, because at that point we were just getting the like Avengers Guardians thing, and they were like, that's what it needs to be. And then Doctor Strange was enough of a twist on that was like, this is how you do the comedy without like undermining all of your own choices with it. But then go figure, they didn't stick to that. But I just, it's hard for me to, I don't know. When you see like Kevin Feige being like, can you believe it? That's a real sunset in the Eternals. For him to then be like, it's the scariest MCU movie. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And like, what is this? What is scary? What do you think is scary?
Yeah.
Like, what does Kevin Feige find scary?
They're even beyond like there's not
lukewarm
really a bar.
reviews.
Yeah, there's not a
keep them.
Oh, there we go. Oh, that's dude. No, that's terrifying. Lukewarm reviews. Did the horror? Let's see. The biggest nightmare for an MCU fan is a rotten.
Dude, I've got a really cool piece I wrote. I don't think it's up yet, but it should be up soon, so I won't spoil the whole thing. But I took every MCU movie and pulled every data point that I could out of the Rotten Tomatoes scores. I hate Rotten Tomatoes as a like measurement of quality, but I think that's a fascinating.
You kind of did that with Black Widow, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a fascinating indicator of not like how good or bad a movie is, but like kind of what people think about it. And so if you take the top critics and the audience scores within each of those, you have a positive negative ratio, you have a tomato meter versus an average score and stuff like that. And so what I did with the MCU is I took it and I looked at what movies have the highest split between the tomato meter and the average critical score. First of all, it's fascinating. Every single MCU movie has a higher tomato meter than average critical review. I haven't done a wide enough analysis to know how true that is outside of it. But like, for example, Joker has a higher critical like the critics' average reviews were a much higher score than the tomato meter represents. Like it's a 49% for top critics, yet they gave it like a 6.7 out of 10 on average. Whereas the MCU, it would be like the reverse, I think. So without going into much more data about which movies fall where, I'll leave that for the piece. But it's fascinating looking at that. And so when you look at stuff like this, speaking of like lukewarm reviews, you're always going to have like a 90% movie is always a like 7, 6.5 or a 7 out of 10 when it comes to MCU, as opposed to like a 7 or 8 out of 10 out of like a non-MCU movie.
Yeah, and that's honestly my biggest issue with that is like, okay, look, 24 of these movies, which I saw Black Widow in theater, so yes, I've seen all of them in the theater. Okay. And the problem is like all of them are fresh. Like all of them over 13 years are fresh. Now here's the thing. There's really only one of them that I've ever said I don't like, and that's Guardians Volume 2. Okay, fine. So I've liked the other 23, but I don't put them all on even ground. And the problem with Rotten Tomatoes is that nobody looks at the number. They just look at whether it has a fresh tomato or a rotten tomato, and it's literally like a pass-fail. And so that's my issue is like, why can't we just look at it in degrees, right? It's like, I'm not going to put Captain Marvel on the same level as Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I'm not going to do that. It's never going to happen. You know,
that's the problem with the tomato meter itself. Like, imagine, and I realize that the whole point of it is to give a simple, easily digestible number for people to consume. And so, on one level, for the right audience, that makes a lot of sense. The people that don't watch movies often that are like, let's go to the theater on a Friday night, like, our one of our 3 times that we're going to go this year. Let's see what's out. You don't have time to read the 6 months of set reports and other stuff that we've been, not even 6 months, years of casting and set reports and trailers and whatever. You have time to look at a 90%. Cool. Let's see it. And so that's useful. But as I'm talking about, like with this piece, there's so much other data in there. Why don't you say, like, why don't you make the other numbers more prominent, or give more categories and say, like, if you're going to score it, score the score, the acting, the directing, the action, whatever. And then when you pull up the movie, say, oh, it's got a 90% overall, but they loved the action. The score was, and score each of the individual elements, just to give people something. Because as I always say on BVS by the minute, Just League by the minute, and Army of the Dead by the minute, whether a movie is good or bad is like the absolute least interesting conversation you can have about a movie. Like who cares? Like, good job, you decided that something was better or worse than something else. Congratulations. As opposed to like actually breaking down elements of it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And it's so fat because it's like the tools are all right. Like they have most of these numbers already. They're just like hidden in the platform. Like, why can't you say like, oh, it got a 90%, but the average rating is 7 out of 10 or whatever? Like, why can't that be more prominent? You have to like dig into the numbers to find it. Most people don't even know what's there. It's just weird.
No, I'm totally, and I deal with that all the time because I still have people like when they see what I tweet about the MCU, when they hear what I say about it on my show or anything, they're like, why do you hate the MCU? And it's like, I don't hate the MCU. I'm just way more critical of elements of it than you are.
Yeah.
It's
like,
like
some of that stuff. That's why I don't like talking about a lot of this stuff with like people who aren't like in like film Twitter or like actively consuming all this stuff, not out of like some sense of elitism or anything, but because if I have a friend who like loves the MCU but doesn't follow movie news or movie drama at all, great. I don't want to change that for you, but like I can't talk about it without like, okay, you like it, that's great. I'm not going to stop you from liking it. Like what you like. However, if you're going to be like more in the weeds on this stuff, there's so many like, well, why was this ranked this way and that way, or why is this talked about this way and that way, and all these things like that. And it's like, but nobody, imagine like kicking someone's door down and being like, stop watching Captain America 3 because the Rotten Tomatoes score isn't consistent with like
right. No, that's
so, like,
exactly, and that's a big like the discussion, like you said. But that's the first thing they'll tell you is that, oh, you're just being an elitist. You're being part of film Twitter, right? But it's like, no, we're not. There are people out there trying to be elitists. But there are also people
absolutely.
that just want to actually have a more nuanced discussion about these movies, right? It's like, for example, like I said, it's a range. Like I'm not going to there are 24 of these movies now, so I can now evenly have a top third, a middle third, and a bottom third, and I can tell you, Spider-Man: Homecoming is in my top third. Iron Man is in my top third. I'm on an island on this one, but I'm going to say it anyway. Iron Man 3 is in my top third. I'm going to say that. Oh, that's a yes, exactly.
Well, I know it's hot button, but we like it, so we're
okay.
fine.
The things people hate about Iron Man 3 have nothing to do with filmmaking quality.
Exactly.
No, they don't. No, they don't. Not at all.
And I'm not saying that they're like whether or not your concerns are valid or invalid, like whatever. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But like the Mandarin has nothing to do.
No.
Like if it wasn't a comic book character already, then it wouldn't even be part of the discussion. It's got nothing. Like now, given there is some goofiness with like the Killian reveals and all that, so it's not that it's perfectly executed. But if there wasn't an expectation of who the Mandarin was, that would be a great twist.
It is very similar,
Like
to what is happening now with Taskmaster.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say about that. But it's like, okay, so when it comes to like appraising Black Widow, it's like, okay, it's not in my top third, but it's not in my bottom third either. Like my bottom third is like, Ragnarok, Guardians Volume 2, Iron Man 2, right? Like that's my bottom third. And it's like, okay, why can't we have discussions like that where it's like, instead of saying pass, fail, or good, bad, we can be like, oh, this is in my top third, this is my middle third, this is my bottom third, and here's why. That kind of thing,
No, I mean that was always my issue with it's always my issue with Rotten Tomatoes is the fact, like you said, it's like, okay, it's got to get to this 60%, and then all of a sudden, hey, we're good now, and blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden there's like logistics of like what determines if it's certified fresh. They have that extra thing. It's like what determines a movie to be certified fresh. I've had that many times too, where people have been, even with Zack Snyder's Justice League was like, why is this not? And then it's like, well, it's got to be like 75% or something like it. There's like a certain.
It's very arbitrary.
Yeah, and I just hate it because there have been times where I'm in like, hey, I've hit up friends. Hey, you want to go check out this movie? And then all of a sudden, what is my response? Well, it's at a 43% on Rotten Tomatoes. I went, and? I mean, do you not just want to like determine yourself, like whether you, I mean, it is frustrating because when you go and look up a movie on that site, that the percentage, and they know this, they've tweaked it, they've done their due diligence, they know exactly what they're doing. That's why when you open up and you search for something, the percentage is the biggest thing you'll see. And then all of a sudden, like Steven was talking about, is like, breaking it down with like the averages and all this stuff. It's small. Like you have to like go, oh, there's like another little rating right here that rates it differently, because, and everything. And I'm like, that's the number that you really should be looking at more than this. But they realized, they knew that people would just go, just pull it up real quick. See that big number? Up. Nah, I'm not going to go see that. Look at how shitty that. I mean, it's 42. What the hell? I'm not going to go pay money for that. It's so damn ridiculous, and I hate it.
A couple of days ago, I think it was Zachy. He found somebody else who was like, or out of Zachy, or maybe it was Richard Newby. I forget who it was, but like they posted, someone was like, quote this tweet with a movie you like that is like rated rotten, right? Yeah. And the first inclination is like, oh, BBS, right?
Yeah,
like but honestly, if I had quote tweeted it, I would have quote tweeted it with Die Hard with a Vengeance, which is 51% rotten. What kind of bullshit is that?
How even that? I mean, that is such the superior like Die Hard like sequel. I mean,
I don't know, man.
I know. I mean, I know. I don't. There's a lot of things. I mean, the fact that Hook. I saw some people say Hook, and I'm like, Hook is fantastic. I mean, I grew up with that movie. I love that movie, and the fact that it's rotten. Like, I was shocked. I was like, how is a Steven Spielberg movie that has Robin Williams as an older Peter Pan, and it's a different take that you haven't seen before of like a Peter Pan who walked away from being Peter Pan and forgot who he was, and the way, and he got Dustin Hoffman as Captain
Dustin
Hook.
Hoffman is Captain Hook. You know what it is?
Yeah.
It's all the Julia Roberts haters. They didn't like her.
Oh, they didn't like her as Tinkerbell.
That's what it was. You know, or
Yeah. But I'm like, how
guessing.
is that even a rotten movie? I can't even understand that.
Well, and that's why it's so arbitrary, and that's why, like, for people that follow the score and make their decisions based on the score, I guarantee that the majority of them, if they poke through those ratings, would find at least 2 or 3 movies rated rotten that they're like, oh, they're full of shit. Those movies are good, which is the point. You know what I mean? Yeah,
but I'm digging Steven, like what he was saying is like, you know, if you're gonna break it down, like let's break it down on like the different like little things. Like if it's an action movie, you know, rate the action, rate the performances, rate, you know, and just I don't know, like all of a sudden my brain started going like a little like whoa. I mean,
rate the visuals, rate the writing, rate the acting,
set designs, everything.
Rate the score. I would, you know what?
Rate the score. I mean, like there's so much, like, you know, and I'm just going like there's so much to a movie that when you watch it, I mean, is there ever such thing as a perfect movie? I mean, maybe, you know, every one of us has like that perfect movie, but at the same time, you know, I could take Back to the Future and be like, well, there's this part right here that just, but other than that, I'm like, you know, this movie's phenomenal or something like that, you know? There's just like, if you could just break it down a little bit, as opposed to just, you know, like you said, a tomato or a rotten tomato. I mean, it's just,
right.
You know, let's get some people to actually just go, hey, let's, you know, and by the way, I actually did get turned down for being a Rotten Tomatoes critic. I got the email and it was kind of funny. I haven't talked about this, but I got their email this week and I totally forgot that I submitted for it. You know, and you submit and you kind of fill out something and then you like, okay, what are you like credible for? And it was like, okay, here's my YouTube channel. And they told me like, well, yeah, it seems like your reviews are very reactionary. And I'm just kind of going, huh? Because sometimes when I've read reviews like with the little captions, it seems very reactionary.
Very.
And there's been times where it's like they have not been analytic at all. And I'm kind of going, and then I went at the same time, like, did you just look at my first reaction reviews? Because yeah, that's a thing that I do, but then I do like a more in-depth, you know, video where I kind of break it down. I get kind of go like, this is what I like, this is what I didn't. So I'm kind of, I mean, even just trying to submit an application to Rotten Tomatoes and them looking at my, I guess you could say my credentials, which is my channel, they just kind of looked at maybe 1 or 2 videos that was more of a first reaction and said, nah, we don't want that. We want a more little, like, not reactionary, but I'm going, I've read some of the captions, you know, specifically when it comes to like directors that critics don't like, they'll just immediately just go,
oh, yes.
Yeah. It's very reactionary.
Well, and it's not like the bias isn't there. And I've talked about this before. It's like bias isn't a bad word.
Yeah.
If you have a bias one way or another, like for or against something, that is your business. It's all subjective. Yeah. Just admit it. That's all.
I know.
Just be honest about it. Like, why hide anything? It's like, Ray, you have a bias towards DC, and what did do you think I'm going to say? No, that's not true. No, it is true. Batman's my favorite superhero. I would absolutely prefer the Justice League over the Avengers. Yes, this is true. Now what? What are you going to do? Like, where do we go from here? And that's really all that I would want any critic to do, or anything like Rotten Tomatoes to do, is just be honest, be upfront, be transparent.
You know, and at the same time, it's like, you know, I get that Rotten Tomatoes is just like a conglomerate. Like they just bring in all this stuff and they have a rating system. It's not like they're just, you know, like a lot of people say like, it's just Rotten Tomatoes. I'm like, well, but it's like, it's a system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's not just like they just put out this and they're just trying to like control the system. And it's like, nah, it's not really that. It's like, but at the same time, the system, just point out that the system is flawed. You know, it definitely is like what we were talking about. It can't just be like, it's either bad or good. You know, there's got to be, I mean, especially getting that email and saying like, oh yeah, well, your stuff seems a little too reactionary and it's not analytical. And I'm going like, you're basing it off of a tomato. That's either
Right.
rotten or fresh. And you're telling me that I don't have the credentials to just like be part of this whole system. That was kind of interesting to me. I'm like, the system is definitely fucking flawed. And I'm liking what Steven was saying of like breaking it down to like individual things, every little aspects, which whatever a movie is, if it's an action movie, it's like, yeah. So people are going to want to know how are people rating the action? And if it's a low, like, oh, the action was like, it was choppy, and it was, they like the edits were crazy, and it's just like I could totally see that they were like, predicting like the next move. It was like an old Steven Seagal movie where like he literally is blocking a punch that's not even there yet.
Right.
Stuff like that.
They didn't hide the wires well enough.
Yes.
Or something like that. Yeah.
Stuff like that. I mean,
Right.
I think that's the way you should really, if you want to get analytical and like break it down, let's do something like that instead. And I'm kind of, when Steven was talking about that, I mean, like that's pretty good. It's pretty good right there. And then did you hear about this, Ray? Carrie, thank you for the super chat. But yeah, remember an LA Confidential sequel with Chadwick Boseman, Crow, and Pierce, and they turned it down. Did you hear about that? Yeah,
I did hear about that. Yeah,
turned a potential, a sequel to an Academy Award winning movie. By the way, that could have introduced some, a little more into it. And hey, guess what? There's going to be, a Chadwick Boseman who's going to be in it, probably leading the whole thing. And they turned it down. Hey, good old Toby, right?
Yeah, well, and that's the crazy thing is, like, a couple of years ago, if you heard this story, you'd be like, well, that kind of sucks. But now you hear this story and it's like, oh,
yeah,
figures, like it, and it's. No, I mean, even more so now with Chadwick's unfortunate passing last year. But like, it's just, now you have to file it under the growing list of missed opportunities, right? Like, just what could have been. And that's, I had this thought earlier today because I was reading IndieWire interviewed Gunn, because obviously the press stuff for the Suicide Squad is ramped up.
Yeah, big time.
It's that's our current drama right now is the battle the battle between Suicide Squads, which give me fucking both of them. There's no battle.
I know, right?
But like, he was talking about I don't know if you guys have read this IndieWire interview, but like the way that Gunn speaks about Warner Brothers, it's like, is he talking about the same studio?
I know,
because
right?
He's talking about the freedom and how they really got something going, and how
like Feige is more like, man, when it's editing, he's like way heads on.
Right.
Warner Brothers, not so much. And I'm like, yeah, if your name doesn't rhyme with Jack Fighter, yeah.
Basically.
Well, I think if you look at Warner Brothers' long history of they're very reactionary and always have been. And so even the cases where they are famous for freedom, it's usually like what'll happen is they'll have they'll make a Superman movie and they'll kind of let Donner, I guess, maybe not do his whole thing, but they'll like let him have a lot of like make mostly the movie that he like wants to make, and then it does well and they're like, oh well, we made that a good movie, so now we know how to make the next one and like destroy it. And then they're like, okay, well, we screwed that up, so let's bring in Tim Burton and let him do his thing, and then it does well, and they're like, okay, cool, so now we know how to do this one, so we'll tell him how to do the next one. And then they grind down into the ground, and then they're like, okay, let's try again. We'll bring in Nolan, we'll let him do his own thing, and that does so well, and then they're like, okay, now let's so it's like this like pendulum of and so they bring in Gunn and Matt Reeves also. They're like, all right, let's let them do their thing, and then so Suicide Squad will be great, but then watch, they're gonna swing back to like Gunn is gonna then have a different experience on one of the next ones, because they're gonna be like, so 5 years from now he's gonna be the next heir. He's gonna be on Twitter telling those stories, talking about like, or maybe he got the clout or maybe he will get the clout that he needed if Suicide Squad does well enough to be able to call the shots and to be like, no, like Nolan did with Snyder on Man of Steel, to be like, nope, let's like protect this project, but someone else is going to be the victim of that, and then they're going to clamp down too hard, and then they're going to bring in another Matt Reeves to save the day, and they're going to have their their whatever is going to blow up and be great, and then they'll clamp down on somebody else. It's like, maybe
I have thought personally, like especially when it comes to like Reeves and also with Gunn, I felt like since 2017, I feel like every director, and I could be wrong on this, but I've just gotten the sense that like every director that has gone into a negotiation with Warner Brothers has basically said, put it in writing that you're not going to do that to me.
Yeah.
Like what happened to Zack Snyder is not going to happen to me. Put that in writing. And so that's why, and I know people are like, well, but they screwed with Kathy Yan on Birds of Prey. And it's like, well, Kathy Yan, that was literally her first American big budget anything. Like,
well, and so, one of the areas that they always went wrong with Snyder, and I feel like they did this with Ayer as well, and now Gunn has a lot more clout coming into the process. But the biggest thing with Snyder is they've never understood what they had on their hands with Snyder. Like to them, it seemed like they always thought he was like a studio product or something. Like, we made him because he ground his way up from 300. He made this micro budget or smaller budget, and I guess not nearly micro budget. It was $60 million, but
well, I mean,
whereas Gunn's coming in and he did Guardians of the Galaxy, and even Snyder, like there was enough controversy to be like, okay, let's react to audience reactions. Whereas with Gunn, it's like nobody is like, oh, but we need to clamp down on his edgier tendencies or whatever, because people love Guardians, even Guardians 2. Even though there is a vocal contingent that was like disappointed in it, it still got good reviews, and people it's enough big fans that loved everything that he did about that there's no like, when he got hired, there was an outcry of like, oh good, this is what they need more of, not, oh, that's a great pick, so long as they can stop him from being overindulgent on poop jokes or whatever. Like,
yeah. Well, and so I read that article and I was thinking about all of this, and I thought, okay, because where am I at on all this? In terms of like, our misery level as DC fans. Like, how miserable are we going to be today? That's basically the question that we have to ask when we are thinking about the future of DC films. And my whole thing is this: I just want a sentence, one sentence from, and it doesn't even have to be from Ann Sarnoff or Walter Hamada. Just have the press agent, have Johns' press agent, who, by the way, wants it clear that he's Lebanese American. Like, have that person write a sentence that just says the following: our plan for the DC Extended Universe is to do standalone movies to allow our creatives to tell the stories they want to tell within the multiverse. That's all I need. One sentence that just says that. And I'm okay. I'm okay. And I feel like a lot more people, if they had that one official sentence, would be okay. But because we don't have that sentence, and this isn't, I'm not saying that I wouldn't still be disappointed about all the Snyderverse stuff. Of course I would. I still would be. Of course I still want those sequels. But I'm just saying, I just want one sentence of transparency in terms of what the fuck you're doing. And going forward.
And that's been the problem with totally. From a number of angles, because every time they've had to react to PR in any way, like the Ann Sarnoff interview was the closest they've come to like making definitive declarations about this stuff. But like, if you remember before Justice League, when they interviewed Johns and Nelson, and then I think John Berg was interviewed in that also, or interviewed around that time. But they'll do like a profile where it'll be like, here's a piece about Jeff Johns, and then they won't give a quote from him. They'll just like the article will say the plan for the future is going to be XYZ, but it'll be like inferred from quotes where the quotes themselves aren't actually published.
Right.
And so there's this level of like, okay, is that what's inferred? Is that official? Is that, you know, and the whole thing goes back to the Snyderverse of like, Zack had maybe not the entire thing, like when BVS was announced, he had a general idea, but like for sure by the time of like Comic-Con, you know, 2016 or 2015 even probably, where when they announced the whole slate, to be able to say like, here's the plan, we're going to do this. And I think part of the problem is they weren't settled on a specific, there was still debate, so they were trying to leave it open or whatever. But, and this has been, I guess, maybe trampled to death because I bring it up all the time. But if they had just said like, we brought in Zack Snyder to tell, he has a vision for a 5-part story that's going to take Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, Flash, Aquaman on a journey, and then he will pass it off to other creatives who will take them on a different journey. Or at the same time, we will have different creators come in to take them on different journeys or whatever. And the number of people who during the whole Snyder Cut discovery period, there were so many people who said like eventually that they made this realization of like that there was this 5-part plan where they were like, oh, you mean BVS wasn't the foundation of a 20 film arc?
Yeah.
Right.
It would have been over in 3 more movies. I am curious how that would have gone now. And then after Justice League came out, they were like, wow, this would have been done in 2 more movies. I want to know what would have happened next. But that narrative, it was like, it was painful to like get that established without any studio comment. Like the studio still hasn't said Zack had a plan and we're going in a different direction now. Even when they refer to it, like even Sarnoff was like referred to it as like the Snyderverse, and there's no, like she said, there will be no more like there's no Snyderverse plans or no more plans for Zack Snyder. It wasn't, we have no plans for Justice League 2 and 3. Like the studio has never acknowledged, other than releasing the boards at the Dreamscapes exhibit, the studio has never acknowledged like this was a arc that had a beginning and end, and that on its own settles so many anxieties, because so much of the, I mean, and it was even in Men of Steel reviews, but also in BVS reviews, there were so many that were like, I don't see how this can, you know, this doesn't serve as set up properly for 20 films, or they're going, like they assumed there's going to be 20 films and then would evaluate, well, this is rushing it. They've got so many. It's like, no, you are evaluating it in the context of like, which first of all shouldn't happen at all. But even if it was evaluating the role, how effectively it served a role that it was never trying to serve. And it wasn't even saying it should have been trying to serve this role. It was just saying like, this movie is intending to accomplish A, B, and C, and it didn't do that. It's like, well, no, it's not trying to do A, B, and C. It's trying to do X, Y, and Z. And you're not evaluating how well it does X, Y, and Z. You're evaluating how well X, Y, and Z match up to A, B, and C, which it doesn't and shouldn't and whatever. Now, maybe you don't like X, Y, and Z either, but at least talk about it in that context, because that's the context it was created in. If you're going to hate it in the context of the role it was intended to fulfill, or criticize the intention to not fill that role. But it was a weird combination of assuming both ways of, A, it is this, which it wasn't, and it's not good at that because it wasn't trying to be. Like,
and at the end of the day, all of that could have been wiped away largely with just a sentence or 2 of transparency. That's it. It's literally it. If they wanted to avoid so much of the noise that has been going on for the last 5 years, all they had to do was simply say, it's X, Y, and Z, as opposed to saying nothing or letting Adam B. Vary and some of these other writers say it for them.
Yeah.
If they come out and say directly, it's X, Y, Z, then at the very least, whether they like it or not, the conversation can be about, like you said, X, Y, Z, as opposed to continuously trying to compare it to A, B, C. And it's not just, to be clear, it is not just writers and bloggers that are doing this bad comparison. It's also the fans. Yeah. The fans are doing this. The whole thing that has been happening the last couple of days, or actually this started on Wednesday, and I'm I am in the middle of the 4th episode of Loki.
Mm.
I have made it's become very clear to me that I prefer the binge model, and I'm sick of watching weekly. Somehow I've remained in the bubble. I don't know how, but I have at any rate. But when that finale came out on Wednesday, and I watched so many people lose their damn minds because, oh my God, Marvel beat them to the multiverse. And I'm like, okay.
No.
The whole reason, but here's the thing. It's not even, they're not, the reason they say that, it's not even because Marvel did that, because Marvel actually didn't, but whatever. The reason they're saying it is because they're using it as a vehicle, a vessel for their anger over the incompetence that Warner Brothers and DC have had over the last 5 years. So that's all it is. So now they've taken the ABC to XYZ comparison and they're using it as a weapon for their
But it's such a weird to evaluate anything in that context. Is like, since when was like talk about like 10 years ago, talking about like, ooh, Marvel's going to beat DC to the multiverse, and have people be like, what? What the fuck does that mean? Like, not just what is it? I don't know what does it mean, but like, why is that some sort of a benchmark? Like, oh, DC introduced Batman before Marvel did. Marvel really missed out on introducing Batman. Like, no, it's just because like, why is these are not things that we are. Why should they beat? Why is beating anyone to anything why is that like a goalpost that like they need to be crossing first or last or it's just,
it's not a race.
It's so weird. Well, and like
but you know what's funny? It's like when it came to Zach, what he was trying to do is like, okay, I mean, we even talking about with Reeves, you know, so. Obviously, when Man of Steel happened, I mean, that was coming off of Dark Knight. So then when it was like, hey, when it came to the sequel, it came to BVS, it's like, what do you do? What do you do when it comes to Batman? You know, and obviously they were like, well, let's do Batman, but let's do a Batman who's been around for 20 plus years and everything. And then all of a sudden you got, all right, well, let's start setting the foundation for the entire Justice League, where it's like, all right, you have a Wonder Woman who's been around for over 100 years. You know, but then we can establish like these, you know, Cyborg and, you know, Aquaman and all that stuff. I mean, he very much did kind of like went back to the, like when people talk about, you know, team ups and stuff like that. I mean, obviously we looked at X-Men, that kind of started like this whole crazy cinematic, like, hey, this is all right. The boom kind of started. You got X-Men, and then all of a sudden Spider-Man came out. But with X-Men, it's like, you know, the group was already formed, you know, not Wolverine, of course. You kind of got like that backstory, Rogue 2, you know, and everything. So you had like little elements that built up like this team. It's almost like to do something different than what Marvel was doing. It was like, Zach was like, all right, well, let's try to do this. We got this young Superman. We got this veteran Batman. I mean, he really was trying to change the game. And then we got this Wonder Woman who's been lurking around for a while. And obviously a lot of people were like, we don't like that, you know, and then probably even Warner Brothers was like, we don't like that either, because what can we do? Batman's one of our biggest properties, and you already have him like in his mid 40s. What are you doing? How can we capitalize on that? And, you know, but at the same time, it was something different and unique from what happened already with Nolan. It was like we had this, it was established, you know, we had an origin story, and then we had this story that just didn't go. I mean, even Nolan changed the game too. It was like he had a Batman story that literally had a beginning and an end.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that's never, I don't want to say never going to happen again.
Yeah.
But if Warner Brothers has their way, I guess, whatever their way is, they don't even know, but they will not allow that to happen again.
I think they don't like that. They wanted to keep on like,
well, they
expand.
If you were to talk to them about what made, like, I don't think that they necessarily look at that, or maybe they do, with regret as like, oh, we missed the chance to make a shared universe out of that. Like the notion of the Nolan trilogy existing as like a box set you can buy, and a story that is complete, and a fixture in a time and place in pop culture. is cool. And there's like the Star Wars trilogy was for a long time, about like you have a complete story, and at that time that made way more sense to set out to tell a story like that. However, now if you were to pitch the Nolan trilogy, they'd be like, well, but then what do we do?
Yeah.
So you want us to abandon all of that afterwards? And it's like, well, for the sake of preserving the integrity of the self-contained artistic vision, like, yeah, like this may be more controversial, and so I don't want to say like nobody's going to care about it, but you've got 24 MCU films and increasing, and it's going to continue increasing. In 15 years, when there's 3 of them coming out every year, or sometimes 4, what's going to be the like? Are people going to still be talking about Iron Man 1 in the same way that they talk about it? Not like what's going to be like, what happens to the value of each of these when like you can't binge the entire MCU anymore. There's very few like self-contained character story arcs. I mean, Tony Stark has a beginning, middle, and end in a way in Iron Man 1, 2, and 3. And I guess even Thor doesn't really through Ragnarok. Captain America's arc definitely doesn't end. It concludes in Endgame, and I guess Tony's arc continues at Endgame also. But he's got a satisfactory ending in Iron Man 3 also, which I don't think Steve gets the equivalent in Civil War.
No, he does
not. Like what of this franchise can you break apart into like a digestible, like complete collection? So like it's too big to consume on its own, but also none of it is conclusive enough to be consumed or held up on its own in the same way that like the Dark Knight trilogy or the Lord of the Rings or any of that can be, or like Zack Snyder's arc would have been. So it's this really weird state of like, and part of it is I think the zeitgeist we live in an age because of social media and all these other things where everything is being analyzed in retrospect before it happens. So our perspective of ourselves and the world we live in and our place in the world is all based on like the whole idea of like being on the right side of history as a concept. People use that for whatever, any context, political or social, or even talking about movies being on the right side of history or whatever. But like these are things that are being determined before history even happens. You're saying like, decide now how you're going to be recognized in 20 years, as opposed to like decide now like what is the right thing to do right now. Not that being forward thinking is like doesn't have any value or anything, but it totally like in the effort of building the greatest franchise of all time, you have nothing has value now. Everything is about what's next. Even Loki, which I guess I don't want to spoil anything for you. I'm sure you've been spoiled a bit if you've been on social media, but like not to give away too much. The whole notion of the show is entirely in service of the bigger picture. And I'm sure maybe some people will go rewatch it, but to me, it's like, okay, now that we've established that, this no longer has value because the only value it had was in getting people more excited for the thing that's coming next. And like, how long can like, what's the most popular thing with like every MCU movie? The post-credits scene, which isn't even like a part of the movie. And all it's doing is saying like, be excited for this next thing. It's like, well, when does the thing that we're excited for happen? Like we're excited for this thing that's coming out, and it comes out and it's like, you can't wait for the next thing. And you're like, awesome. And then it comes out and it's like, but you can't wait for the next thing. And like, I guess it's been very financially and critically successful. But at what point do people just say like, okay, that thing you've been telling me to be excited for never completely happened because there was no like, even Endgame like was close in its like conclusiveness, but even that, it's hard to look at that and be like, that's the end of the story. Like it's, I don't know how I'm very curious how like the MCU as a 40 film collection or whatever is going to look in 10 years versus.
And that's the problem when you decide to do cinematic television, because that's what the MCU is. It's cinematic television, and I've been saying that for years. Like each phase is just one season, and you know that essentially what we had. The Endgame was essentially the season finale of season 3, but then like Far From Home was like the epilogue, right? It was like the postscript for that, right? And I feel like, and this is gonna some MCU fans may bridle at me for saying this, but Black Widow feels like a lost episode, like one that was supposed to happen earlier in Phase 3, but it got buried in the archives, and now we've resurrected it, and here it is. And so there's a post-credit scene there, and again, what does that post-credit scene do? Points to the future, and without giving it away, it doesn't just now things are even more complicated in terms of what you're talking about, because you're not just pointing to the future of the movies, but now you're pointing to the future of Disney Plus, because that post-credit scene points directly to Disney Plus. That's all I'll say about that. But like the problem, and this is why, I always bridle at people who act, there was a story that came out earlier this week that A24 was shopping itself for like $3 billion. And I saw 50 people on my timeline go, "You better not touch it, Disney." And like, Disney's not a monopoly. Disney markets themselves so well and so invasively because they own a news network and because they own a sports network, big sports network. They market themselves so heavily and they oversaturate the market so much that people just think that they are all powerful and believe that they have all of this ability to buy everything, and they really don't. And so the situation with that is when you are constantly marketing the next thing, the audience doesn't even stop to think. They just treat each movie as another episode, and now they're going to treat these shows kind of in the same way, where it's like, well, no, these are actual, because when you get into rank, it's like, okay, now where do you put WandaVision and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Loki in relation to the movies, because they're all connected, right? So what kind of list are you forming there? But again, these are things that are pushing you towards the future. There's never time in the franchise for you to sit and digest what you're watching. Case in point, I saw somebody earlier today talking about how we still haven't gotten a teaser for Spider-Man No Way Home. Mm-hmm. And I said, that's because Black Widow just came out last week, and there's 2 more movies in between that before we even get to Spider-Man No Way Home. Yeah, and it's a case where, like, literally, like, Black Widow I feel like the Russos were being prophetic when they said the spoiler moratorium for a movie is 2 weekends. They said that in their press tour for Endgame. They're like, 2 weekends. You know why they said that? They said that because after 2 weekends, that's when Disney starts marketing the next thing. Mm-hmm. So after this weekend, we're going to start seeing the push for Shang-Chi. And they're going to start ramping that up, and then we'll start seeing more Eternal stuff. And then after 2 weekends after Shang-Chi, Eternals push. And then we'll really start seeing Spider-Man stuff. And it's just forward. That's all the franchise really does.
Yeah. I like what you had to say about like how Black Widow is like that lost episode, because it very much is. And anytime like something that like that happens, they always, it's not really spoiler or everything like that. It's like they almost do like let's inject this to for people to recognize it. Hey, guess what? What's her name? Yelena. She's wearing this vest with a bunch of pockets. Guess who ends up getting that vest at the end? Natasha. And then she wears that in Infinity War. Remember Infinity War? Ha! It's all connected. Woo! You just, it's all. At the same time, I'm like, fucking, who cares about a vest with pockets?
You know what it reminds me of, actually, because I've always been very on the same page with Ray and the idea of cinematic television. But even you look at Lost and Breaking Bad and Sopranos and anything, those all still have a beginning, middle, and end. Yes. They've got, even if it meanders at some point, you've got like the early seasons, the middle seasons, and the end season, and there's some sense of an arc. Even Lost is going to get a lot of debate over like what was intentional, what was planned, and how it was executed and all that. But like there's still an arc that comes to conclusion, and I don't get the sense that like that's something that's ever going to necessarily happen. Like, how do you wrap up the MCU and be like, that's it, that's the final movie, and yet like Tony Stark has been dead for 20 years, or like how do you how do you do that? How do
I
you
mean,
give
like,
someone a
like-
more satisfactory end than Endgame when so much evolution has happened? And and as you're saying that, I'm thinking it's almost more like
called a
music.
phase. It's a
Well,
phase.
yeah, but it's almost more like music than it is like television, and that you'll get a band who I think like the Killers or like Maroon 5, I think it's like a great example of this, where they'll have like an early album, a breakout album or whatever, and it's like, oh, this is really cool. And then they'll have their next album, and
then they go mainstream.
it's either they go mainstream or whatever, but then they'll have eventually the second or third album, usually either it's like an evolution and people love it or people hate it. And at that point, then a ton of bands, it's rare that someone doesn't fall into this trap, get like fixated on like their first album and or their second album, and then after that it's all, well, that's what people want, so let's just give them more of that. And so then you just have like a ton of background music that sounds like the things that people liked from that first album or that second album, but like you got like Maroon 5 and you got like songs about Jane, and like you listen to the songs on that and you're like, these are all amazing, awesome, independently good songs. And then you've got like, and then you've got Adam Levine singing for like, and they'll have radio hits and they'll have whatever, but like nothing is as culturally significant as like Sunday Morning or I can't remember there was a couple of big hits from songs about Jane, but for like I don't know how weird of a poll that is for comparison for everybody, but the point is that that's such a like, you take something that's iconic, and then because like with music you're not servicing a storyline, you get to a point where it's like, let's just give people things that sound like that thing that they like in perpetuity until I guess and it's hard for a band to reinvent itself, right? Like there's no point that people are going to be like, oh, this is totally different, I'm into it again in the same way that I was with the first one. Now it's just like, oh, that's a sound that I like and I want to continue listening to that sound, and it's just a bunch of blah versions of that for
that's why I said that Black Widow was like the Marvel formula. I mean, it definitely was, in my opinion. It just had that Marvel formula. I mean, it didn't seem like it strayed away. It was like, yeah, you got like these other side characters in this, like, yeah, it's a contained story, but at the same time, it had the same beats of like, all right, you established this in the first act, and in the second act, you're going to have some of this, that, and this, and then all of a sudden the third act is going to be like this crazy ending where something is falling from the sky. You know, it's like they couldn't just go like, hey, the Red Room, it's going to be at a place underground. It's going to be something. It had to be a fucking like ship in the sky.
Well, I said in my review, I said it's because I did like the movie, but I said it's a solid impersonation of Winter Soldier. And and think about think about the phrase, think about the word impersonation.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying, but you're not as good as the original.
Oh yeah.
What you just said, actually, like if you go back and look at that movie, I think even thematically speaking, they were trying to like embody Winter Soldier in terms of like the tone and stuff. But if you just look at it structurally, that whole Red Room part, I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is Project Insight all over again. It's the whole instead of 3 helicarriers, it's 1 floating base.
Yeah,
basically,
right.
And it doesn't, instead of landing in the water, it just lands on the ground. Basically, like that's okay. It's the same setup, and so I could look at that and I could go, okay, well, I like Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier is one of my favorites, but you didn't quite get on that level. You just seemed like you were intent on, like you said, following the formula and getting close, but not really, understanding what it was inherently that made Winter Soldier as special as it was. And I mean, listen, technically speaking, like the fight choreography and like the way that Black Widow is shot, it really does embody a lot of what I enjoy out of Winter Soldier. But when it comes to like a full body of work, I guess for me, there was probably just a little bit too much of Red Guardian. And no disrespect to David Harbour. David Harbour is awesome. But he was telling way too many jokes.
He
was,
it got a little cringy at moments.
I haven't seen it yet, but that is like the second I saw his like character reveal, I was like, this is gonna be a character that I wish, like hypothetically, is really awesome, and I'm always going to wish that they didn't make him the comedic relief or whatever.
Totally.
Like,
Yep.
And it's funny too because when you actually see the opening, you kind of go like, "Huh, okay, maybe why? Okay, you kind of go like, this character's going to shift." But in the beginning, you kind of go,
yeah,
there's something there, and then there is something there because there really is something there that they really could have like fixated on when it came to the story. But there's just
in 2021, you've got a movie about a Russian. He's like a Russian version of Captain America, right?
Yeah.
He's like their attempt. So imagine culturally, like as a part of the zeitgeist, how much opportunity there is in 2020 to tell a story about a character like that.
Yeah.
And then like to not do it because it's not as good as having him crack jokes is like the most predictable and disappointing kind of like.
It went downhill once he put the suit on.
Oh yeah.
When he was out of the suit, like even the stuff where he was in the location he was in, since you haven't seen it, even some of the stuff.
Well, that's fine. I'm not worried about spoilers.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's nothing really to spoil, really.
No, not.
I mean, you already saw the Taskmaster thing, and that was like the biggest.
That was the biggest, right? And it's so weird talking about spoilers for a movie that, chronologically speaking, happens between Civil War and Black Panther.
Yeah,
or like around that time.
That's the thing, is like it just felt so out of place, you know. And it's
out
like
of place release wise.
Yeah,
like if I ever went back and did an MCU rewatch, which I might do that. I don't know if I'll do all 24, but I might do that at some point. But if I get to that part of it, like I may watch
Black Widow's The Tokyo Drift.
Yeah, like I might watch okay, I watched Civil War, and then I watch Strange, and then Black Panther, and maybe I slot like if I'm going chronologically, I watch Black Panther right after Civil War, and maybe I watch Black Widow right after Black Panther, chronologically speaking, because it's like that's where this belongs, that's where this fits. I don't care when you released it, the movie chronologically took place back then. And the thing is, Steven, is like there's so much in the movie beyond just the fact that it's about a dead character that points to exactly when and where it happens in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's like the general, and I'm not saying that Disney is insulated from all of this, because obviously the general audience doesn't care. They saw it, it made a ton of money, it's making money, okay, whatever, not that big of a deal. But if we're having a deeper conversation about it, and you look at the film and you go, well, if somebody's trying to piece in their head where this happens, they're going to be like, well, wait a minute. Why didn't this movie come out 4 or 5 movies ago? Not just because she should have gotten a movie, not just because they think she should have gotten a movie sooner, but because literally the events of the movie happened 4 or 5 movies ago.
How clearly do they, like, how much effort do they put into spelling out where it is in the timeline?
Extremely, it's a lot, because it is abundantly clear.
Because if you think about the general audience, that's one of those funny things where, like, that's a very classic general audience thing where, like, they'll go see it because it's MCU and it's Black Widow and it's ScarJo and all that. But the frequency with which you have a prequel or something like that, and the general audience doesn't even know it's a prequel. Like the frequency with which they'll be like, I thought they killed that character off, but it's a comic book, whatever. They just like shrug it off. I'm trying to remember what that's the most common with, but there's one where there's a franchise where it's common that I'll run into like people who like exiting Rogue One, for example, thought that it was like episode 8.
Oh wow.
And like
okay.
And right, you're like, that's a common like, and that was a common enough thing that, like, it seems crazy to us, but the fact that somebody could watch Rogue One of all movies and leave it and not be entirely confused and not be like furious at how they're like ripping off the Death Star again, right? And yet also be like they thought like Jyn was Rey. And I'm not talking like it was a common thing, but I'm saying it's not a
somebody thought it.
Not just somebody thought it, but I mean, like, of the general audience 10%, maybe. So like you take out like all the hardcore fans, and you take like 10% of the general audience, and yet they're also unfazed by it. Like they're not walking out of it like Rey's arc makes no sense, and how dare they do the Death Star again, and I thought Darth Vader was dead. Like none of that. They're just like, oh, it's Star Wars. It's more like that shows you. It's so that really informs to me also how like. So imagine those people watching the actual episode 8 or whatever, and that's the level of scrutiny and continuity they have comprehension of. So of course the MCU, the exposition universe would be like, here is where this stands in the timeline, because that is what this audience. That's like one of my biggest issues with Loki also, where like the finale is like, it's just like it might as well have been a documentary where they brought Kevin Feige out and just been like, here is how this is structured. Like
I have seen the meme people have compared it to the architect from The Matrix Reloaded.
It's like that. It's like that, but it's the entire. It's like if the entire episode took place with the architect. Like there's no, and because the architect is like it's like a quick like. Exposition isn't inherently a bad thing. Like the architect is cool, but it's like a big reveal and it's like a boom, boom, boom. Whereas like most of the Loki finale would have been more interesting as a prequel movie. Like the coolest things about the Loki finale are like, why didn't you make that into a movie of its own? That would be, it'd be like if in imagine if like Justice League was a series and there was an entire episode of Diana telling the story of the history lesson to Bruce. And it was just them standing in the hangar telling the story for the entire episode and no history lesson flashback. But she like jumps up on a table sometimes to be quirky. Like
okay. All right.
No,
I'll get to that later on.
I'm taking from. I think Steven didn't like it as much as I did, probably. But
I'm probably pissing a lot of people off with that opinion.
Yeah, I know. I remember your tweets, and I was like, "Ooh, that's gonna stir some shit."
There was, But
at the same time, I'm like, "Oh, Kang is going to." I mean, going back to the Marvel formula is always like setting up for the next thing. I mean, Kang is definitely going to be. He's the next Thanos.
Because Jonathan Majors was like trending on Twitter like all day, and I'm like, I'm like, unless you and that's part of where this also kind of fries me, because a lot of times I think about Samuel L., where he's like, you have to get past the Avengers and Marvel shit. Other fucking people make movies, and I'm sitting there like, did any of you watch Lovecraft Country? Did any of you see The Five Bloods? You don't even know who the hell Jonathan Majors is until now. Yeah. Damn it.
But of course, then you've also got people who were like, oh, it's too bad the Emmy nominations just came out because Jonathan Majors should have like been nominated or whatever. And I was like, I don't agree with it's just so it's like, once again, what are you actually watching? And like, how do you I'm not saying his performance
didn't get nominated?
Majors?
Yeah.
For Loki?
No, Loki.
No, for Lovecraft. He got
he did. Yes, he did.
No,
he did.
Okay.
No, but I'm saying for Loki, people were saying he should have been nominated for Loki, and I was like,
for Loki.
And I don't know. I don't want to be as harsh on his performance because so much of it was that it was like the setting of the finale was not like there was no atmosphere, and so even though they've got like a background, you very much feel like you're watching somebody act on a blue screen, not by like a fault of his so much as there's just nothing. It's literally just exposition delivery. And
I've seen that already in the 3.5 episodes I've watched.
Yeah. I mean, if you've noticed that in the other episodes, it's that, but like the entire episode is that, which is like the biggest weakness of the show to me, is that it's like, let's just have Loki explaining people stuff. Like, okay. Was very disappointed in the show overall, but I know I'm unique in that, so I guess maybe everyone can just dismiss my opinion. But
this is
I get it.
This is the harshest criticism I've seen of it in the last 2 days, and I'm saying from either side of it because I've seen a ton of mutuals that are just like, oh my god, they were ranking the Disney Plus shows like earlier today, and everybody had Loki at the top of their list, and I was like, I'm not sure. I don't know if I'm gonna have it at the top of my list.
Fun fact. Here's another cool thing about the Rotten Tomatoes data is the Wayback Machine pulls historical scores, and so it's fascinating to look at scores always evolve over time, especially audience score. And audience score is jacked in so many ways, but almost every MCU movie is the most popular MCU movie the month it's released.
Exactly.
Like if you look at the ranking, Black Widow right now is, I believe, the highest rated audience score of any MCU movie.
It's the best movie in the
ever. But you look at, but you compare it to like Ant-Man and the Wasp, I think opened at the same score that Black Widow is at right now. But it's at 87% now or whatever. So the stuff all falls off, and so the conversation stops though. So you have a month of people saying Loki is the best ever, and then in 6 months people are gonna be like, you know what, it really wasn't that great. But you don't reevaluate it. There's no conversation to say like, remember how we said it was the best ever? We don't believe that anymore. It's still
I probably still have WandaVision on top, to be honest, just because even with the dick joke, boner joke,
Falcon and Winter Soldier right now is my number one as far as the shows, and
it was strong. It was better than I thought it was going to be.
It's what I wish Civil War had been, like, an actual Captain America story as opposed to Avengers 2.5. But this is how the marketing machine works for Disney, and it's like, and I've been telling Scott this for like the past couple of weeks, and he's just been observing like what I've been talking about. It's like when people talk to me about the impact that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has had, I have to look at it and go, well, it's not the movies, it's the marketing. Yeah. Because when it's in Good Morning America, when it's in ABC World News, when it's in your sports, when they do Marvel Nights in the NBA, when there's a Black Widow or a Loki ad every 2 minutes in between watching Stephen A. Smith make an ass out of himself, or anybody else,
Hey, he is making memes for us. Don't diminish. Don't diminish his hard work.
That guy is meme machine.
No, he is a meme factory, and I just listen. Just remember this: hockey is back on ESPN this fall, and they're going to let him talk about it.
What?
I think the thing that really, for me, started making me sour, or I don't know if it's sour so much as like just not put as much investment or anticipation into it and just appreciate it as like the popcorn that it is that the MCU never delivered, like you said, it is the marketing, and it's like the Big Bang effect, right? Of like, by that I mean like the show The Big Bang Theory, of how if you know anybody like your aunt or your mom or whoever that probably watches that show but doesn't know anything about any of the inside jokes that are in it, now they like think they're a part of this, like they think they've got a joke about Batman or Green Lantern or Aquaman, right, or whatever, and they're like, oh, I'm one of the hip kids because I'm in on this show. And so you get the MCU on Good Morning America, and you have the stories about all the actors and everything, and so you get the like general audience on board with this, like, oh, this is like they set a narrative of like this is the thing, and then meanwhile like someone like and I, again, I'm sure not everybody agrees with me on this, but I know myself and a lot of people will like sit down and watch Big Bang Theory and be like, okay, that's just like, no, like that's not actually a joke, or if it is, it's old and not the case anymore, or that's not an accurate reflection of how these people actually are. Like, but it's not for people that are like the characters in the show. It's for people who don't understand the characters in the show and find the idea of going to Comic-Con inherently funny.
You're talking about, and I'm a huge, Sean and I are huge Big Bang Theory fans. We've been watching since like season 3. So yeah, we got in on like closer to the ground floor, but you're talking about the references and like the stereotypical humor that they put in terms of geek culture, like that, like any time they reference a show or a movie, or like how they, how they're improperly playing World of Warcraft on their computers, or how they're holding their Xbox controllers. Is like nobody fucking holds an Xbox controller like that when they play. That kind of stuff is what you're.
Well, but also right? there'll be stuff like there'll be jokes that are of the nature of like, oh, isn't it funny that geeks are this way? And everybody's like, ha ha ha, it is funny that geeks are that way. And it's like, well, but geeks aren't actually that way. But like cultural kind of, everyone's kind of runs with it because it's like, well, that's what the show that depicts the way geeks are depicts them. And it's not like I'm like, that show represents me incorrectly, so much as like there is just a disconnect between like because like these movies are made for those characters. Right. And so a lot of the people who are not those characters or what those characters represent who enjoy this content are people who are like, oh, this is just like what the characters in Big Bang Theory would like. Therefore, now I can like it too. And meanwhile, I'm like, well, they're not like, you're making content for, I don't know. It's such a weird.
No, I get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying because it's like this level of like accessibility for the uninitiated, and that's what the marketing of the franchise continuously bills is. You don't have to be a nerd or a geek in order to get into it, and
they sell you also on this like there's so many like even on Twitter you see that like Dave was talking about like with the vest or whatever that is they do in Black Widow, where they'll be like, ooh, look at this, and people do it with Snyder all the time too. One of my like I gets on my nerves when people praise Snyder for having like attention to detail or whatever, because 90% of the time it's just like basic continuity, and maybe he does a better job than other people. So I'm not saying it's not something he's worth being praised for, but you see stuff that's like, oh, Snyder's attention to detail is amazing because the pod is open on the ship, and it's like, well,
and then you ask Snyder, it's like, I don't know.
And it's something that he legitimately puts care and attention into, but it's not like
sometimes,
but it's. You get this level of they make that way more accessible in the MCU, and so you have like on Twitter or even not, you have people. It's the ironically, it's I understood that reference. They give that feeling that like that feeling geek gets when they're reading a comic book, and it's like editor's note, read this, and it's like, oh, I've read that, I know what you're talking about. Like that satisfaction of knowing the lore. There's like a dopamine release or whatever that you get from that, I feel like, and they give that to the general audience, but it's with stuff like, remember when like literally the I understood that reference is GIF is like a phenomenal meta example of that, of like people being in on the thing. Without like, and I don't know, I guess maybe there's a level of elitism to this because I'm not being like, they didn't suffer out reading comic books like we did to truly grasp the depth of, like, that's not the point. But the point is that they're serving up this like, oh, hey, remember when he said I can do this all day? Well, he says I can do this all day in this one too. Like
there's at least a line or two, like there's one line in particular in Black Widow for sure that does that. Where like if you remember, thank you for your cooperation.
Oh yeah.
Well,
definitely,
and that's I guess why I bring up Big Bang Theory, because that's the type of thing where like the show would present that kind of thing as like, I don't know, as a completely hypothetical example of something that the characters would be like, ooh, I love that reference and whatever, and so then the audience is like, I understood that reference, and it's like, but that's not like actually a reference that's like actually interesting or deep or meaningful or anything. It's literally just like
a callback. And I'll admit, when I heard her say it in that scene, I had that dopamine effect. Yes, it was cool for a second, but I didn't give it any more massive thought. It was just like, oh well, that's clearly because there's a reason. Like there is more of a reason as to why she says it, which clues you into some things that you would have already known about her character had you followed her through. So yeah, it is like that reward center that they're hitting, but it's not like this massively deep, incredibly meta thing necessarily. It's just rewarding you for having done the homework.
Yeah.
True. And then one of the things I was thinking about too is like, okay, so obviously we know that there's certain characters in there, Secretary Ross. And I was kind of disappointed. I was like, all right, if he's in this, what are we going to establish here? And then it just seemed like,
nothing.
I mean, he's all about the Accords thing still.
Yeah.
That we already left behind in Civil War and shit. And I'm like,
right, yeah.
And I was kind of going, are they gonna try to like hint at something, at least get something Thunderbolty, or something like that? It was like, Nothing.
Yeah.
I found that part. I mean, sorry, Steven, I didn't mean it. But you don't worry about spoilers.
No, I could care less.
Time, it's like they have Ross in there, and you're kind of going, oh, and I totally forgot. I'm like, oh yeah, he's a part of this, and I'm going, okay, they're gonna try to establish something because I know that they want to. But and then maybe I missed something. I don't know. I haven't watched.
No, I don't. If you did, then I missed it because I mean, it made sense for him to be there, but it was like,
all right, let's progress the character a little bit. And it didn't seem like it did it. You know, this character's been around since the second movie in the whole fucking universe.
Yeah, and they've also, but see, it's this weird thing, you know, and it's almost like it's the universal problem again, because he was in that second movie, but it's almost like, you know, he doesn't come back until like 11 movies later, and it's like literally from Civil War on, they've just ignored that he was in the second movie. And you know what Thunderbolt actually means, and I don't know if it's a legal reason because Universal won't play ball with them on all that. I don't know, but
I don't know if there's that whole thing. Yeah,
but because also think about the movies that he's been in. He's never. I mean, Black Widow is, I guess, a solo, but it's not a Hulk solo, right? And like it's Civil War, and then he was in, I think, Infinity War for like a hot second as a hologram. Like when he was trying to talk down to
no, I think it was Endgame. Wasn't that Endgame?
No, I wasn't.
Or was it Infinity War?
No, I think he wasn't. I think it was Rose.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
Infinity War. Yeah.
So
because then like Steve and her.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's almost like they kind of reinvented his character, but didn't change his name, and it's like same actor. Same name, but you're just going to ignore all the shit that happened in Harlem in your second movie in the franchise.
But then at the same time, we have the Abomination showing up in Shang-Chi. It's like, well, wait a minute.
Right. You know, and also Blonsky is going to be in one of the shows. Yeah. Tim Roth is going to, is it She-Hulk? I don't know.
Probably.
It might probably, but he's been cast. He's going to be in one of the Disney Plus shows that we're going to get. So
I mean, I guess that's always going to be the case. I mean, you could probably look in comic books where they like kind of go like, we kind of retcon stuff, and then you retcon a retcon. I mean, look at Fast and Furious. I mean, I think Zaki last week when he talked about that, like how, you know, when you had Han who died, and then all of a sudden it's like they retcon that, and then they retcon a retcon. And it's like, whoa! It's like, you know, that's what's going to be happening. It's like retconning other retcons because they have to make it fit and be like, hey, we got to move forward and we got to continue still with the story. So we're going to have to like, hey, maybe people won't really remember this or, you know, forget that.
And in that case, the general audience probably would care even less about that one, especially given how the mid-credit scene in F9 went down. Because all we want to see is what happens from that.
Well, yeah, they did a really good job because that little mid-credit scene, I was like, okay, good job, you got me. I want to see what happens next now.
Right,
fuck you. Damn you.
Right, exactly. It's like, never mind all the multiple retcons they put into this. Never mind that they literally did go to space. Dude, I said the next place for them to go was space, and I was like, oh, they already have.
Yeah.
Never mind all of that.
It really does get to the point with like these mid-credit, post-credit scenes. I mean, even with Black Widow, I mean, when you see that scene and you kind of go, okay, shit, you just sold me this. Okay, I get it. I mean, like, they have perfected that pretty well where it's like, you know, you could be like, about the movie, but then all of a sudden, like, yeah, you get that to that post-credit or mid-credit scene, you're going to go, okay, the next product, you know, going back what, you know, you were saying, Steven, was like, you know, they really do a great job at that because, I mean, the strongest character I thought was Yelena, and the fact that they're going to continue on with her, I'm like, all right, all about it. Cool. I mean, yeah, this movie was like, you know, kind of felt filler, out of place, blah, blah, blah. You know, Scarlett Johansson, see you later, even though I already said that back in 2019 or whenever Endgame came out. You know, I was already done with it. Now I'm like, all right, Yelena, let's see where you're going to be. And then, you know what? And I'll commend Black Widow for going, okay, they knew that they had to go, okay, we're going to have other characters that we have to introduce that you're going to be more excited for. And they did it with Florence, pew, 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 you know, like I totally am all about like, hey, whatever, like she's going to be in next, I'm there, totally there. And then they established that in the post-credit scene or mid-credit scene. I'm like, thank you. Cool. That's fine. I didn't really dig Black Widow as much as maybe other people, but guess what? You still sold me on the next product.
For all of the criticism, and for the record, Black Widow's in my middle third of the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
But like, for all the criticisms that I or any of us can have about the quality and like the content of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the one thing that I have always said from the beginning and will continue to say is Kevin Feige is doing his job. He is doing his job to perfection. You can't say he hasn't. Like, you can be critical of what you think of the job itself, but it's not a case where you can be, I don't think, terribly critical of how he's doing it.
Yeah.
Right. He is operating at 110% efficiency with that job. There is no doubt about it. This is what they want to do, and he's not even hiding it. He's not even hiding that that's what they're doing. He's making it very good. That's why the Eternals thing about, you know, the lighting and everything, Steven, that's what makes that funny, because that's not his job. And he knows that's not his job. He doesn't care. So he'll throw something out like that, and he knows he's not going to get shit for it, because look at what he's done effectively for the last 13 years, and what he's going to continue to do. He knows what he's doing. So, you know, he's not this evil, like, he's not like Gru from Despicable Me. He's not like, you know, twirling his mustache and figuring out how to take over the world. He's just literally,
he's delivering what the audience apparently wants.
Yeah.
He works for the best brand builders on planet Earth. Disney can sell whatever the hell they want to whoever they want, however they want it, and it will always sell. Like, they're just, very few of Disney's IPs fail. Like, that's just a thing. And that's just, whether it's, you know, even all the people that bitch about Star Wars, it's like, okay, you guys were all upset, and not you guys, but like in general, people were like upset about the sequel trilogy. And now all the people that have been upset about the sequel trilogy, if they're not still, you know, harping on it on like Twitter, what are they saying? Oh, I can't wait for the next season of The Mandalorian. I can't wait for Ahsoka. I can't wait for the Book of Boba Fett. It's like whatever angst the majority of everybody had about the sequel trilogy that still, by the way, made $1 billion a piece. Now it's like, now we have all this anticipation for what Star Wars is going to do in Disney Plus, or we're watching The Bad Batch now and we're all excited because of all these connections that it's making to Clone Wars and Rebels, and we can't wait for Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron movie, right? It's like Disney knows what they're fucking doing. They just do. They're not a monopoly, but they know how to sell shit. They know how to sell shit better than anybody else on the planet.
Very true, man. Very true. I think that could be a good way to wrap up the stream right there by Ray saying Disney knows what they're doing. I mean, sadly, I can't disagree with that. I mean, you don't have to like it. We don't have to like it. I mean, that's what's so great about this too, is like, you don't have to like it. But at the same time, it's like, that's part of it. And then when it comes, you know, to Warner Brothers and DC, it's like, you know, when you have somebody who is trying to do something different, and Warner Brothers was like, no, we have to capture what they're doing over here. And then they realized, well, that was a mistake, obviously, because when we see Zack Snyder's Justice League, we get, okay, that's not what they were doing over here. It was something different, and it totally works. And that's why everybody's, you know, going crazy about it. And, you know, when it comes to like multiverses, I mean, this has been like the hot button topic. And I hated the fact that people thought the multiverse thing was like, multiverse started Wednesday, Loki Wednesday started. I'm like, we had the Spideyverse first off, you know, that recently. And then we I mean, DC was kind of already tapping into that too. I mean, it's already kind of been there.
I mean,
as Ezra Miller and Grant Gustin were on screen together.
but like, what even is? I mean,
say it, Steven.
The multiverse has existed ever since there was more than one story told.
True.
Yeah.
With
Very
these characters.
It's
Yep.
just
Like-
never been in your face, I guess you could say. I mean,
Well,
now that term is being tossed around like crazy.
it's here's something we all need to remember. Maybe this is a good thing to end on. Remember that the general audience are not having these discussions by and large.
That's right. Yeah,
When-
we
when-
always have to check ourselves.
Yeah, when we see the people blathering on about how the multiverse started Wednesday, that's like what 1% of like everybody. Like it's the fandom. That's really what we're talking. The general audience.
Then you see like DC fandom going, oh, they beat DC to it. It's like, did they?
No,
like, ugh.
it's right, and that's what that was the biggest thing that irritated me was just like, you guys realize that you're doing the people that you hate, you are feeding them. You are literally giving them ammunition.
You're like admitting defeat, and
right. It's like you want them to stop hitting you with a hammer, then don't hand them the fucking hammer. Like play keep away. What the hell is wrong with you? But it's just it's right. So but that's the general audience. They saw Loki, and now they're still seeing Black Widow, and then they're just gonna get ready for Shang-Chi, which will be in September, and they'll follow where the marketing takes them, like as far as that goes. And when the Flash comes out next year, they're gonna go, oh, well, they do it too. Okay, that's all the general audience is gonna say. Oh, they do it too. Okay, or if they've watched the DC shows, they're like, they've been doing this. Okay, and that's it.
That's the hope. And then and then when it comes to Shang-Chi, I'm like, well, first off, I'm looking forward to What If, because I'm kind of curious of like all that, when I thought Loki, the way it ended, I was like, yeah, they set up What If for next month. Cool. And I'm totally looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to Shang-Chi because it's going to hopefully break the mold a little bit. And I'm hoping for some like really awesome fight choreography that doesn't have like, a half a second, cut in between like every punch and every kick and stuff like that. I don't want it to be jump cutting like crazy. Going by the trailers, it looks like, hey, this is going to be beautifully shot. There's going to be some longer takes that we're going to see. It's not going to just be, and I'm really hoping for that. Who knows if that's going to be the case, but, just really hoping for, that. And then next year when it comes to the Flash and what's all going to be with that, I mean, hopefully, I don't know. It's very weird what's going on with the Flash, because it's like, I'm excited for it, but at the same time I'm going, I don't know, like, is it going to work? But at the same time, I'm looking at the people involved. It's just such a weird thing, especially being a DC fan, because, and then we got Suicide Squad coming out next month. And I'm kind of going, yeah, I'm going to see it. Obviously, I'm not going to pass it up. I'm going to watch it. It's going to be hopefully, I mean, we've gotten the first round of social media reviews, and you can't really go by those because it always seems like the social media reviews, when that embargo lifts, everybody's always really positive. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, when the actual reviews come out, people start breaking it down. And it's kind of going, oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm kind of going, and then there was that whole, there was that whole thing with the fandom about James Gunn and Zack Snyder. And it's just, you get tired. You get tired. And you kind of just go like, hey, I mean, I get it. If you don't like James Gunn, fine. Perfectly fine. And there's a lot of, whataboutism. And there's a lot of like, hey, I don't plan on seeing this movie, but I have 1,000 opinions on it. There's that whole thing. That
my favorite is like, oh, hey, this treatment of James, like, it's weird because like I don't really care to defend James Gunn. I think that like his tweets were weird and gross.
We all
but also like there's been like no evidence of like anything else, and he hasn't shown any signs of like that being like it was just really, really, really off color, bad taste jokes. And I'm not going to celebrate him for that by any stretch, but like I'm not going to I'm not going to crucify him over it a decade and a half later. But also like I have no interest in, and also I'm mixed on, he's done some great movies and he's done some not so great movies.
Yeah.
And so like it's funny that like you strike that balance or try to strike that balance and just like defend him against unfair criticism. It all of a sudden turns into like, oh, you're defending the pedo, or like, well, how come you're not saying the same thing about Zach? And it's like, well, how these, like, first of all, like, what do you do, like a manifesto every time anyone says something where it's like, this treatment of James Gunn is unfair. Also, Zach's treatment was unfair. Like, no, those are both things that are true. You don't need to like preface every single thing with like the list of like other whataboutisms that are equivalent or not equivalent. Like, no, the way that people talked about Zach was unfair. That does not mean that that has nothing to do with whether or not the way people talk about James Gunn is fair or not. Like, those are like, fair is fair and unfair is unfair. And what happened to Zach was not fair. And what happened to James Gunn is what happened to James Gunn, not what happened to Zack Snyder. Like, it's yes, there's some weirdness in the whole like, why did he get so much freedom and Zach didn't? But like, that's not James Gunn's fault. Like, how are you gonna fault him for that? Or for taking advantage of the situation? Like, I don't know. It's just it's a far more complicated situation, and there's a lot of people who are like not very good at bad faith arguments, and that they think, I don't think they actually believe what they're saying, but they believe that they are like establishing a narrative. And so they'll stick to the like, Gunn is a pedo, Gunn is a trash filmmaker, whatever. And it's like, nobody but your like bubble believes that. And so all you're doing is just like preaching to your bubble and like not convincing anyone of anything. And so there's this weird like crusaderism going on about like, why aren't you fighting against him the way I am? And it's like, I don't take your like, whatever your social circle rewards you for saying, like, whatever, like, every time the rat pulls the lever and says James Gunn sucks and they get likes from all their friends, good, keep doing that. And they'll keep on encouraging the Pavlovian response. I don't care. Have that. Why are you going to like demand everybody else take part in that like circle? It's so weird.
Well, it is. It's like this weird sanctimony. Like they're standing on a soapbox and like and they feel like it's a way for them to achieve this like moral superiority, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, no,
well, because once they have that justifies the way they are. Like, if they are morally superior, if they are on a soapbox, well, now they can talk down to other people, or now they can say these other disrespectful things because, well, what about when this happened? Well, first of all, whatever happened to Zach did not happen to you. It happened to Zach. So like, you can't take that as a martyr to be like, this happened to me. It didn't happen to you. Like,
right. That's where it starts. There is this whole like, no, you're not living vicariously through the man. He went through it. You can not like it, like any of us don't like it, but don't use that as like, it's not your shield, it's his. You know, like, that's not how this works. But yeah, the whole, you know, I tweeted basically what you said a second ago about Gunn yesterday, and I've wanted to tweet that honestly for a minute, because for like the last couple of years that sentiment has gone out where they've literally like called him a pedo, and it's like, that is very irresponsible for you to say that, because there is literally nothing, you know, and it's not even a case of like, you know, because people are like, you don't know everything that he does. That's true. We don't know everything that he does. Here's what I do know. Unlike others that have been caught in Hollywood, this guy had the cast of one of his movies write a letter and start a hashtag of defense for him to get rehired. Okay, no one did that for Whedon, or everybody wanted to rat Joss Whedon out.
I know what other person that happened for.
Well, see, there you go, exactly. So, but that, and not only that, but just last week, you know, that whole exchange between Gunn and Ayer, where Gunn was talking about the freedom that he got, and then Ayer was like, "Dang," and then Gunn responded to him, and Ayer had nothing but called him one of the good guys. Said, "Thanks a lot, James. You're one of the good guys." It's like, conveniently ignore that in your sanctimony. You know, you've been you've been tweeting hashtag release the Ayer cut for the last year and a half, and you're all about this big thing on August 5th. But as soon as he praises Gunn, that never happened. It's fake. Whatever.
And then even like back in 2017, Gunn tweeting out support for the Snyders. I mean, I saw that recently being like retweeted. A lot of people were going like, "Hey, you guys are trying to like keep like making Gunn like to be out the bad guy." It was like, but he, regardless, yeah. I mean, I like I said, I don't care, and like we said, his jokes that those tweets and stuff like that was, obviously a lot of us were kind of going, "Oof, what are you doing?" But what were you doing then? But at the same time, it's like. We've heard many times, we've heard Zach talk about like praise him. We've heard James praise Zach. I mean, there's been so many things where it's like, we try to, it's like sometimes people are always trying to be like, hey, he's not the good guy. At the same time, you kind of go, but look what he did when he responded to Ayer. You kind of like, are you just going to ignore that? Like the professionalism at least? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and at a time too, when like other filmmakers weren't acknowledging them or were outright like cheering Zach, like what was happening with Zach.
Yeah.
Like Gunn didn't say like, congratulations to my friend Joss Whedon for taking over. Like none of that. It was like he was one of the, and there was no like, I wasn't a fan of Man of Steel, but I feel bad for his, like, no, it was like a sincere whatever. Now, I don't know. I really don't care to get into the politics of like, did he really mean it or any of that? But like, it's just, it's frustrating because the argument about whether or not he's actually a good guy has nothing to do with any of this. It has everything to do with that him being a bad guy serves their narrative purpose of restoring the Snyderverse and getting the Ayer cut released. And Gunn, his pedo tweets and all that isn't even about what it's actually about. It's all about how it helps release the Ayer cut or restore the Snyderverse, which is so disrespectful to like the actual question, which is a legitimate thing of like, how do we deal with someone who made light of these things in the past? And now, like, do we just move on? Like, how should that reflect on their art? There's a lot of interesting conversations to be had there, but it's all in service of release the Ayer cut. And it's transparently so. These people aren't doing it in a way that's like deftly like managing a narrative. It's very obvious that they're being,
I don't even know what deftly managing a narrative is.
It's like you see their tweets and you're like, oh, you are just being hyperbolic for the sake of your cause, not for the cause of like actually caring about what anybody said. And I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. No, it's such a, it's just the way it is. But you know what? Yeah, we're gonna end this tonight. And like I said, I appreciate Mr. Sean Reeves for coming on and talking briefly about stuff. And like, hopefully he comes back because I would love to pick his brain even more because just fascinating. I mean, one of the aspects of this whole CBM world is costume designers. I mean, it's like we talk about like, hey, visual effects and, the people involved, writers and directors and stuff like that. But man, costume designers, I tell you what, I mean, it's really fascinating. I really hope that I can talk to him some more and pick his brain even more. And, I appreciate him just coming on for the hour and just talking about what he talked about. He dropped some bombs, which, he's a cool dude, and hopefully definitely get to talk to him again. And then, of course, thank you. We'll go around the horn. Go ahead, Steven. Plug yourself.
Yeah, I'm Stephen Colbert. You can find me on Twitter at SM Colbert. You can find my writing about all sorts of things. I've been doing a lot of Rotten Tomatoes and box office breakdowns recently, so find that all at screenrant.com. You could also find my podcast with Andrew Dice at thesnyderminute.com. We're doing Justice League, Army of the Dead, and especially Batman v Superman 1 minute at a time. We dropped a bunch of content this week. Actually, we just dropped a Batman v Superman episode today and yesterday, and I'm being told that a third episode of BVS by the Minute is being dropped right now. So if you are looking for post game, go go take some shots while you listen to that or something. I don't know, whatever your Vodka Stream post game plan is.
There it is.
All right.
There it is. And OCP Ray. Sorry, like you know what's funny? When you showed up, I was like, why does that logo look familiar? And like for like probably about 30 minutes, I went, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden I went, Jesus Christ, RoboCop, go!
Yeah.
And I was like, damn it. I was like, for the longest time, I'm like, is he part of a crypto or something like that? I thought it was a crypto logo for a minute there, but then I was like, but I knew it looked familiar. And
this is how part of how I rep my hometown, Detroit.
Yeah, sure, exactly.
Because
unless we forget that RoboCop takes place.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. All right, Ray, go ahead.
Yes, I'm on Twitter at the Flightcast. Which is generally speaking where you can find me arguing about something or talking about something with respect to all of our nerdy pursuits. My show, the Flightcast, is at theflightcast.com along with my blog. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. And I'm also I forgot to mention this last time, I'm also part of the Squadcast Media Network. I do Fans Without Borders, and I do Squadcast Movies on Patreon with Tim, Scott, and Jordan, Chris, and Brent, and all the others at that illustrious network.
Nice. So, yeah, make sure you guys check out all that stuff. And then, of course, hit that like, thumbs up before you leave. Hit that notification bell. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit that member. If you want to become a member of Film Junkee, I sure would appreciate it. Or if you want to be part of the Patreon, you do that too. And then, of course, merchandise down below. And, thank you, Steven.
Throw a knife at Steven.
Thank you, Ray.
Ray.
There you go. Can't forget the drops. Cannot forget the drops. But anyways, guys, appreciate everybody spending time with us on this Friday night, and we will definitely talk to you later.